Okay, let's get a federal abortion ban. Or is it possible? So, because everyone is suggesting that any liberal saying this, that it's just states' rights. They're just trying to give the rights back to the states. Well, now we have to consider what Mitch McConnell, the Senate minority leader, the highest Republican Senate in all of Washington, the highest Republican senator in all of Washington, what he stated. The apparatus for anti-choice won't disappear if Roe fails. They won't stop with abortion either. Mississippi River fishing. When you say they won't stop with abortion, I'm wondering if you're talking about what's on the monitor behind me. Are you suggesting that potentially LGBT rights might be at stake? You're suggesting that they won't stop at abortion. What might be next? And you do say yes. Using a 1960, he certainly has now stated the quiet part out loud. He has removed all doubt as to whether a national abortion ban is possible. Now, I'm not going to jump the gun and say the goal is a national abortion ban. I'm still willing to give a little going and can. And also, I see you said, I heard biracial marriage maybe. Yeah. Yep, interracial marriage conception. This is out of hand, says Gene 2260. Well, it's not looking good. It's not looking good. Not necessarily because they are going to do it, but now they have revealed that they can do it. Government of the people, by the people. It's not what the people want. They will try, but ultimatum. I don't get the rest of your comment there. That came from Benji. Well, I do agree with government of the people, for the people. However, the Supreme Court does not have to always, they don't have to always subscribe to that. The polls show that the vast majority of Americans, in some form or another, do support some form of pro-choice. Maybe in the first trimester only, maybe only in cases of rape and incest, but they do. The overwhelming number of majorities, I believe it's about 70%, 70% of Americans do support some form of a woman having a right to choose under some circumstances. So this actually goes against your notion of for the people, by the people, because they're doing something that represents the minority. Very similar to, say, some of the trans rights. I've had arguments on this program, legitimate points being made. Why are we changing the entire country based on the needs of a very, very minority? And that was in regards to the trans community. That's a legitimate argument. But here's a case where it's kind of happening in reverse. Not as minority, but make no mistake about it, the anti-abortion crowd is the minority. Let me see here. And I can't believe they're targeting contraceptives already. Wow. It should never be a choice. It can't be allowed at all. Communism is cancer. Well, you may be about to get your wish, but all I can say on this one is expect to never be a choice. It can't be allowed at all. Communism is cancer. Well, you may be about to get your wish, but all I can say on this one is expect to fight. I would just hold the door open for all the Republican women looking for a home. Oh my God. Oh man, that's hard. Freedom, says Robert Bankston 357. The last guy I heard say that, yelled that out right before they chopped his head off. Shout out to Mel Gibson. Regardless of what happens, every state makes their own laws. Fraudulent, not if it's federal. For instance, there were states that would not grant me civil rights. They would do that if they had the ability to make their own laws, but the federal government stepped in and said, no, you have to leave these people alone. So, and that's the history of this country. That's the way it started. So, the idea that every state makes its own laws, yeah, but every state is also trumped by the laws of the federal government. History is repeating. We are going backwards, says Spring Jennings too. Well, in regards to this, yeah, there's no denying that if they reverse Roe versus Wade, at least in that one particular piece of legislation, yeah, it's going backwards. The Dems have control of White House, host of Senate. If they want to do something about it, they can. St. John's River, no, they cannot. You need 60 votes in the majority. They do not have 60 votes. There's only 50 Democratic senators, and you can use Kamala Harris as a tiebreaker. That is not enough votes to defeat the filibuster. Let's see how it's going to pan out with Kamala and Doug Harris. I don't think it's going to pan out favorably for the Democrats. I don't think there's a lot the Democrats can do, at least in the interim, to stop this. I think this is pretty much a sealed deal, assuming that the Supreme Court goes along with it. Now, getting a chance to test the waters and see how unpopular it is already, they may decide otherwise. But if they follow through with this, I don't think there's anything the Democrats can do to stop it. Let's start out with 5,000 likes. Any chance you guys can push the screen, get your boy likes up? Okay, let's go ahead and move on. Terrible timing, SCOTUS. Doug all day, it's not really terrible timing. This is a leak. They didn't want this to be out yet. This came out before they had control over it. They didn't want this. So you can't necessarily blame it on the SCOTUS. Someone got their hands on that document and leaked it out. Will they be held accountable? I don't know. Some argue that they may never be found, but you can't blame it on the SCOTUS because they didn't intend for this to be leaked out. However, had they adjudicated this and made their decision in June, it still would have been pretty bad timing. I mean, keep in mind, June is only next month. So they may have found out something maybe a little bit over a month early. That even if it didn't come out until June, that still gives you what, from the 6th month to the 11th? That's 5 months. You still have 5 months between June and the midterms. So, okay, it came out, it came out ahead of time, but yeah, 5 months is still a long time to give people to organize, to kind of launch a counterattack in the midterms. This is going to cost some Republicans victories. I'm just telling you that. Before this, we only had Joe Biden and a lot of the failed Biden policies. The way the Biden administration is, for the most part, an economic failure, at least up to now. That was all there was to focus on. And the Ukrainian war. This comes through, and now all of a sudden, even though Biden may be performing poorly, you got a choice. You can either put Biden back in there, or you can put somebody in there that's going to take away your rights. Say how you want, call it spin, call it fear-mongering. I'm just simply telling you what's going to happen. You got a choice. You can either work with Biden and try to get this economy together, or you can vote in Republicans who are going to start rolling back all your rights. That is the way the Democratic Party is going to spin this. And because of what Mitch McConnell said today, any Republican that wants to simply label what the liberals are saying as fear-mongering, or, coming out of left field with some crazy shit, Mitch McConnell just made your job that much harder. What you said is the stupidest thing I've ever heard in my life. One gunny, no snowflake zone. I don't mind. Listen, let me make it clear. I tackle any comment. You can insult the fuck out of me, but elaborate on what you said. I give everybody their free speech rights in here. I will never censor you. If you think I just said something that is really stupid, elaborate on it, and we can talk about it. We can actually talk about it. No one's going to run from you in here. Like I make it clear, even though my name says what it is, MAGA is my preferred audience. So let me know what you thought was stupid, and we'll talk about it. No problem with that. Not to mention Biden is racist. What does that say? Baloney. Does that say baloney, man? 61. In regards to whether Biden is racist, even as an African American, I have no problem admitting Biden has said some crazy shit throughout his lifetime. Definitely has said some suspect phrases. None of that is going to top what is happening right now from the Republican Party. You right now have the Democratic Party thinking that they're going to roll back women's rights, LGBT rights, and potentially the rights of minorities all in one fell swoop. You can say whatever the hell you want about President Biden. It's not going to deter folks from what's going on with the Supreme Court. You can call it spin. It might actually be spin. You can call it fear-mongering. It might actually be fear-mongering. But this right here is pretty heavy shit. You're not going to throw out "you ain't black" to counter this. I'm just telling you, Biden's going to have to say a lot more shit to counter this. This is pretty big, folks. This is pretty damn big. Let's see here. We the people, yeah. I appreciate those who are sharing. Biden voted against Roe v. Wade, yeah. And Obama stated that he identified marriage as being between a man or a woman. But that was years ago. We're talking about right now. I mean, I could bring up that Trump told Oprah Winfrey in 1986 he identifies as a Democrat. Trump is on record saying he is not in favor of necessarily allowing you to have an assault rifle. That's in the past, folks. You're not going to... This is happening right now. And you're trying to counter it with shit that's 20, 30 years old. It's just not going to work. Even if you're making a point that they said that stuff. It's not going to compare to what is going on right now this week. Literally, anytime Trump has faced someone he can't bully, He folds like an omelet. Ooh. Blaze, Triple X, I don't know. I think he did pretty well handling Stormy Daniels and what was her lawyer, Michael Avenatti? And he couldn't bully them either. He kind of ran over them. Both of them. In fact, I don't know, because a lot of folks, let me just say it this way, and I understand we want to stand up to bullies, and I encourage that on the left or the right side of the aisle. But I will say this, when it comes to standing up to Trump, even if the majority of us think Trump may be right or wrong on some issues, standing up to him is taking a significant risk. There's not a lot of folks, particularly in the political theater, that have stood up to Trump and done well. Start off with Jeb Bush. We can work our way through Hillary Clinton. I just mentioned Stormy Daniels and Michael Avenatti. How many careers have been ended by people who stood up to Trump? Michael Cohen did time in prison. Yeah, this is a difficult guy. Even as a liberal, I'm willing to admit this is a formidable foe. He is not an easy guy to stand up to. I mean, you see, he survived 2 impeachments. January 6th, in my opinion, there's nothing going to come out of that. He's probably going to beat the state of New York. He's probably going to beat the state of Georgia. And he potentially has a good chance of getting reelected again. This dude is the Teflon Don. Let me look at the comment. Let me go forward a little bit. Teflon man, yeah, I'm telling you. And Robert Banks says, bring it. Yeah, if I was Trump, yeah, I would feel pretty fucking cocky at this point. He survived a lot of shit. That's including racism lawsuits from its tenants. How many women has accused? I mean, that dude survives shit. He should be on Man vs. Wild. He survives shit, or Naked and Afraid or something. You're still whining about January 6th, even though video shows cops were walking in. One Gunny, who the hell is whining about January 6th? Who? I said he survived the investigations at this point. It's not over with yet, but at this point, he has survived January 6th. In regards to the claim that the videos show the cops letting folks in, I did a little clip on my channel. That is true, and I showed the video of that. However, it should not be confused. The video of the cops the Capitol Police letting folks into the Capitol building on January 6th should not be confused with everyone that was in that building, because there's obviously video of people breaking windows and getting in there too. So if anybody trying to convince you that they all broke in, they're wrong. If somebody trying to convince you that none of them broke in and they all came in as invitees, they're wrong as well. United we stand, Robert Bankston. Nah, right now that's not looking that way. Right now it's looking more like America divided. Majority of Americans want to see Roe versus Wade left in place. About 58% of America's recent poll. UBI 206, I heard it was high as 70. But even at 58%, that's still a majority. You're right. He will not win again, says Give 507. I think it really depends on who he's running against. Let me put it this way. Even with a name like I have, and I'm not going to get 5,000 likes out of you fuckers, no matter how much I beg, huh? Tap your screens. Get your boy up to 5,000 likes. It's almost 200 of you in here. You can do that. In regards to saying Trump is not going to win again, I would not bet the farm on that at all. First of all, we got Joe Biden, and there's a lot of buyer's remorse with Joe Biden. And this is where, even as a liberal, I would give Trump an incredible amount of credit. He's responsible for some big shit. His legacy, certainly with this Roe versus Wade, his legacy is growing. Even though he's not in office, he is the man that is responsible for this happening. So anyone that is in favor of rolling back Roe versus Wade, protecting the sanctity of life, or however the hell you want to word it, you got to give credit to Trump, because without him, this doesn't happen. A lot of folks on the right are not necessarily in favor of the vaccine, but the CDC is claiming the vaccine saved tens of millions of lives. That's him also. That is him also. I mean, so listen, there are folks out there, I understand, but regardless of what side you're on, I understand there are people who would not give Trump credit if he cured cancer. They wouldn't give Obama credit either. You don't get that here. I can fucking acknowledge someone, no matter what side of the aisle on, if they've done something that's beneficial. And at this point, Trump is developing a legacy. I mean, those Supreme Court justices are his. He put 3 young people in there. That's something that he can take credit for, in all of the decisions that follow that. That's his shit. No, without Mitch McConnell, it doesn't happen. All Trump did was sign his name. Without Trump in office, there is no fucking Mitch McConnell. How could you not see that? Mitch McConnell was the one that guided the Supreme Court justices through the Senate. But at the beginning of it all, Trump has to be president for Mitch McConnell to even have enough power to do that. So I'm willing to acknowledge where Mitch McConnell also deserves some credit, but there is no Mitch McConnell at that level. That would be Chuck Schumer and those folks, or whatever the case may be. He would not be the Senate majority leader, which he was under Trump, had Trump not won. If Hillary Clinton had won, he wouldn't be there. So you can't give you cannot give Mitch McConnell credit without acknowledging Trump. Trump is the one that gave him the power to do that. It wouldn't matter who's in political office and affiliation, that people's not going to be pleased. Jubilant 3237. Are you suggesting that no matter who's in office, people are going to be unhappy? I agree with that. I think that's what you're saying. Well, let's get We City 00. What's going on this afternoon? Let's see.
Yo, what's good, man? What's good?
No. You the man. What's on your mind?
All right, so basically, there's people in here saying Donald Trump ain't done shit when he's actually done quite a lot in the background. Like,
Yeah.
you guys need to understand that even though you might think he's a racist or whatever, he isn't. He's proven to people that he is not willingly. He will do it. Like, he'll do whatever he needs to. If that makes sense.
Yeah, well, let me say this in regards to people saying that Trump hasn't done shit. Well, there's also folks who said Obama hadn't done shit. That's just called politics. It doesn't matter what the president does. They're going to be his detractors saying he hasn't done shit. Trump himself said Obama did not do a single thing good for America when he was in office. So that's just what critics say.
But I mean, yeah, that is true. He doesn't think he's done much, but that's the thing. I don't think many people realize what they've done until like it's proven to them. If you get what I mean.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I get it. I mean, a lot of my MAGA folks that I talk to, my beloved audience, they make it clear. Listen, Trump could cure cancer. Nobody would give him credit. Well, there is some validity to that because, like I just stated, Obama could cure cancer and they would do the same thing to him. That's just politics. That has nothing to do with Trump specifically. That's just part of politics.
Exactly.
So, but hey, go ahead. Well, you can finish it. Go ahead.
All right. I came here just to point out that Donald Trump is helping, and we should acknowledge him for that. So yeah, just don't have too much hate for him. He may have done things in the past, but we all can come back from that if we do the right actions in the future.
Okay, fair enough. Well, come on back through anytime, man. I'll follow up. But yeah, appreciate you coming through.
Yeah, man.
Now let me say this, and hey, good call. Let me say this in regards to having hate for Trump, being able to forgive and things like that. Most of the hate for Trump, and I do see somebody else in there, so give me a chance to get to you, Barack. Barack, B-O-R-A-T, not Barack Obama, but I'll just say this in regards to hate for Trump. A lot of the hatred toward Trump, unfortunately, is self-inflicted. And I've said this before on previous broadcasts. There's no way you're going to claim that the previous president was born in a foreign country and then expect to get elected and nobody attacks you. I mean, Trump did spend a significant amount of time criticizing the hell out of Obama. I mean, he essentially heckled the entire Obama presidency. And he's also done the same thing for President Biden. So if he gets elected again in 2024, expecting it to go smoothly is, it's just crazy because he's been constantly heckling these guys. And that's in addition to the Pocahontas and nervousness. I mean, he's heckling a lot of people. So I understood why this other, the gentleman that just called in stated that, well, you should get over it. It's going to be a challenge to get over something that he's still actively doing. Until he stops doing that, expect a reprisal. Barack, the man. Let's see what's going on. Good afternoon or good evening. I don't know if he decided to play troll tonight, but he's gone. Trump will never get elected. What did I say? Trump will never get elected again because many Republicans think he is dangerous. Adrian Bishop, I believe you're referring to the group that they call the Never Trumpers. In regards to that, you said because many Republicans think he's dangerous. I don't think there's enough of them. CPAC about 3 months ago, Trump came in first place. by a lot. This is an area where he can literally say at Republican CPAC, I won by a landslide. I think Ron DeSantis came in second place, and Trump beat him by like 20 points. So there are Republicans that do not want Trump reinstated. My guess is Mitch McConnell is probably one of them. But at the end of the day, in regards to the Republican voters, he overwhelmingly is still the favorite. So I don't know about that one. Trump 2024 better than Obama and Biden. Douglas, depends on your policies. Depends on your policies. That could be a very legitimate point. If you lean right, I mean, I wouldn't expect a right-winger to pick Obama and definitely not Biden over Trump. I mean, that makes sense. I mean, Trump just appointed 3 Supreme Court justices. That's about as much of a gift to the Republican Party as he could give. And he wasn't even a Republican. He came in there. When is the last time a president, one dude, got to appoint 3 Supreme Court justices? That may be a record. Certainly in 4 years. So, yeah, that's some good shit. I don't have to be on the man's side to be able to point out where he did something that's worthy of accolades. Mark Esper just wrote a book. I think I heard about that. Trump, 30,000 lies documented. Jeff Clark likes trees. Welcome back. We've talked before. Yeah, he told a lot of things. He said a lot of things that were not true. A lot of things that were not true. A lot of them started out than anybody else. All that stuff is not true. He said just the other day I made a video of him claiming that he's done more for every religion on earth, more than anybody else. Where the hell you get that from? But that's Trump. That's not going to stop him from getting reelected. That's just him making everything a grandiose way to put stuff. Seriously, why do people like DeSantis? Theodore, MC Phil, that's a good question. The reason people like Ron DeSantis is because he essentially is going to give you all of the greatness that you may have preferred from Trump. If you're a right-winger and you like Trump's policies, you like the accolades of the Trump administration, for the most part, you're going to get all of that from Ron DeSantis. And you can expect to have a great reduction in the amount of chaos. He's not going to be getting involved in the name calling and all of the personal attacks. So he actually, in my opinion, does make for a really good suitable alternative for Trump. But right now, this crowd, they're still loyal to the man. They're still loyal to this man. So the only way DeSantis is getting in there is if Trump steps down and then endorses him. That's all Trump did was appoint 3 Supreme Court justices. Michael P. 4514. That's like saying the only thing I did was gave you a couple $1 million to start out with. That's fucking huge. If you want to pretend, and I don't agree that the only thing Trump did is gave the right 3 Supreme Court justices, not the left, but gave the right 3 Supreme Court justices. He also gave you Operation Warp Speed. There was not any wars happening under Trump. There is good there. I get being a liberal and leaning left. You're inclined to not want to admit it, and that's fine. Hell, I don't want to always admit it. But when you're being honest, you got to point out, yeah, he done more than just gave you 3 Supreme Court justices. And keep in mind, all of the right-leaning legislation that comes out of those Supreme Court justices from this point on, and most of them will be there probably 30 to 40 more years. All of that is because of Trump. So it's literally giving you 3 Supreme Court justices is literally a gift that will keep giving. Trump is a businessman, says Douglas. Yeah, that is true. Trump created cult members, UBI 260. Yeah, that is 100% true. But that's not to say that all MAGA is cult. Yeah, but he certainly has some cult following out there. He's a bigot. No thanks, says Bella IZ. Well, to some people, bigotry is not a deal breaker. To some folks on that side, and I would never be one to act as though all MAGA, all conservatives, all Republicans are racist. That is absolutely not true. Same thing on the liberal side. I don't think anything can be stereotyped as all. All liberals are not socialists, for instance. But on January 6th, you do have a guy walking around with an Auschwitz t-shirt on, and nobody seems to give a damn. So, yeah, I absolutely believe that in certain audiences, yeah, racism is not a deal breaker. What is Trump's policies? Where is his plan for insurance? I don't think he has one. And I don't think that's necessarily going to be a deal breaker in regards to reelecting him. They're looking at all the other shit he did, and they're probably willing to overlook the fact that he's not progressing in regards to insurance. Blind sheep says Juice 1955. I wish we had a ticket with both parties on it. Jake Malcolm 3, if you had a ticket with both parties on it, I don't think you'd get anything done. Can you imagine Trump with Kamala Harris as VP? What kind of legislation are you going to pass with that much division on the ticket? You can't do that. Host, you look like Johnny Depp. Do I look like a guy who's been battered? Got his finger chopped off? Woman shitting on his bed? I hope not. Trump created COVID. I've seen that. Nobody expected Trump's base to stay this loyal. He did, Samantha Anderson. He did. When he got up there and said on national TV that I could shoot somebody in the middle of Fifth Avenue and my supporters would go nowhere, he hasn't shot anybody yet. So, if he can say he can do something that grandiose and some of his supporters would not leave him, well, shit, January 6th is kind of mild compared to that. And so is the name calling. He pretty much told you himself he could do it. Uncle Ruckus says, I am Trey. Every broadcast, somebody calls me a seller. Uncle Ruckus, Uncle Tom. What is the other ones? I don't know. Listen, just because you get an African American who does not mind pointing out that there are things on the right side of the aisle that make sense, why the hell does that have to be a seller? In other words, you want me to be a sheep. You want me, because of my skin color, to automatically lean left and stay that fucking way. I don't want to be that guy. But once again, like I said on every broadcast, this is a no snowflake zone. You see the fucking sign. We're not going to run from your comments. I don't know, by the way, there we go. My screen was mirrored. Okay, there we go. No snowflake zone. We don't run from your comments. So say what you want. Electo Temps, appreciate that. Say he is not Uncle Ruckus. I appreciate that. Let's see here. United we stand. We're not right now. Not by demand. You says, do you? Do you what? Jeff Clark likes trees. So, yeah. Welcome back. Web City. Is that Weeb City? Okay, let me see. You are a liberal. You are an independent. That came from Heather White 94. I'm pro-choice. Is that an independent tenant? I'm for criminal justice reform. Is that independent? I'm for $15 an hour minimum wage increase. Does that make me? I mean, I'm for some liberal shit. I just am for self-reliance. I believe we should support the police as opposed to criticize. I mean, I can come up with shit on both sides, but I do tend to believe I lean more left than right. But call me wrong. Okay, who that? What did I say? Over 9 million? Okay, let's do it. Let's make it a pro-choice equals pro-murder. Crazy Mike. Over 9 million. What's up?
What's going on, brother? How you doing?
Oh, none. Doing good.
All right. Well, I just want to first, throw out there Trump, Biden, Hillary, Bush, all of them. I think they're all in the same, the same person is playing, them as puppets. We don't know who those elite people are, but I think Trump, Biden, don't matter who's president. I think Trump, Biden, don't matter who's president. Somebody is making their calls. That's first off I want to throw out there. So I don't want you to think if you hear some criticism on Trump, don't think I'm supporting Biden by no means. But I have critiques on both sides, and I don't think anybody can really say I'm completely right, just like you said, right, or I'm completely left.
Right.
Everybody is in the middle, or maybe leaning towards right or leaning towards left. Anybody who says I'm completely right or completely left, they're lying to themselves, or there's some radical, not worried about some of the real issues on their side, because both sides have issues, right?
Fair enough. Hey, before you continue, let me just say this in regards to user 51. It said in the comments, no one has a problem with supporting the police. We have a problem with corrupt cops. I agree that cops should be held accountable. Yes, there are people who have a problem literally with supporting the police. It goes beyond that. I mean, I can come up with what does ACAB stand for instance? That's a person who has a problem with supporting police. If you see ACAB in the comments, spray painting on something, there's plenty of people who have a problem with all police. That's why the minute they approach a lot of folks, they instantly go off and develop an attitude is because they have a problem with authority. Go ahead, over 9 million.
Yeah, so just on that topic, I think a majority of cops are good, especially when they first start. They all mean well, just like politicians. In the beginning, they all mean well, but eventually, some go to the dark side. Politicians, most of them go to the dark side. Eventually, they'll get bought. Somebody will buy them, right? with
Right.
the cops, what 10%? I'm throwing a real generic number, but 10% of cops could be bad. The other 90% slowly might get there, or what they do is might overlook one of the bad cops doing something that they shouldn't be. Right? And who's that? That Chris Garner guy, I think it was, or not Garner. The guy that got killed in L.A.
Wait.
Because
Oh, wait a minute. You talking about wait. The guy killed in L.A. You're not talking about Rodney King, are you?
no, I'm talking about the police, the ex-police guy. It's like Christopher something. I gotta find out the name, but basically he was an ex-cop. He snitched on one of his fellow partners, and then they did everything they could to get him out. They finally got him out, and he went on a rampage. Remember, the cops were chasing him into a wooded cabin, and they shot that whole thing up, put it on fire because he killed. What he did
Oh,
was he went.
you talking about you talking about the dude that looked like LL Cool J.
He might have looked like LL, but yeah, that guy, he basically went to some cops' houses and killed their whole family. Like he went berserk because
Wow. I didn't know because he also killed a reporter on live TV. I didn't know that's what that was about, though.
yeah, nobody knows. They didn't put that in the media. I got that from Dave Chappelle. If you watch his last little segment during COVID, it was called like 8:47, the time that it took George Floyd to die. It was a wild. You
So
need to watch that.
you're saying that this guy who killed all of those cops was doing this because of police corruption?
Yeah, because he told on one of his partners. The partner like kicked someone getting arrested. He was like, "Hey man, they're cuffed. Why are you doing that?" So he went and made a little report. That little report turned into a bigger deal for him. They eventually fired him and messed up his whole life. And he said, "I'm getting my revenge." And he went to one of the cops' houses and took the whole family out.
Oh, they really, if that is the case, I didn't know all that. They really would have swept that under the rug. Wow. Because
Yeah,
he
yeah,
did flip out. He definitely flipped out and was going around, and he was specifically targeting other police.
yeah,
So
yeah.
even though I didn't know about the narrative you're saying, because they never gave a good explanation as to why he was on the
Never.
rampage.
I didn't know. I didn't know until just maybe 6 months ago when I saw the segment of Dave Chappelle. I said, man, I went right up on it. He really did. He was an ex cop that just simply
Wow.
reported on one of his fellow cops.
That's an eye opener. Yeah, they definitely kept that under the
So
rug,
here's the
man.
other thing on this topic, right? Is the systemic racism, not just cops. That's part of it, from the DA to the public defenders to the judge. There is built in their system because okay, I don't take myself white. I'm not from the U.S. originally, but I'll be considered white because where I'm from, they put it as Caucasian. But by no means do I
Where
say
you
I'm
from? Where you from? Where you from?
Afghanistan, Middle East and that type of area. They
You're
consider us
actually
Caucasian.
from Afghanistan?
Yes, sir.
And you sound like that. Were you born here?
No, I wasn't born here. I came as a refugee in the mid '80s during the Russian war.
So you must have been pretty young when you came here.
Yeah. I was like 5 years old.
Okay, because you're English. You sound like you from the hood.
Oh, there's
I
one.
was
That's
always
so. This was
good.
my point, right? If I'm clean cut, I could pass for a straight, white. When I was 19, there's a sheriff that pulled me over, right? And this sticks to me. Read this recent, Mike Brown and a few Trayvon Martin sticks to me, right? Because this sheriff pulled me over one day, the best sheriff I ever knew, because I'm hotboxing my car with my cousin, and he pulls us over and he says, "You guys got anything else in here, man? What are you doing? How much weed you got in here?" And he's asking all this stuff. And he said, the thing that still to this day I remember is he said, "You remind me of my son. You lucky my son is a pothead. You remind me of my son." If I was black, I would not remind this man of his son. He let me go in 2 minutes. In 2 minutes. So
Wow.
then I thought, okay, I've been in the front of the judge before too, and one time it went okay because the judge was an Asian lady, and the arresting officers were two black officers, and they super hooked me up. They could have hit me with felonies, this and that. They hit me with like a misdemeanor charge. I even beat the whole court because the cop, he did everything he was supposed to except not take my prescription for marijuana seriously. I told him I have some weed, and that's why the whole case got, well, now a different one. I got pulled over in a straight, I don't want to say red area.
Are you in a major urban area?
Yeah, I'm in the Bay Area, SF and Oakland
Okay.
Bay Area.
All right. Okay.
So the black cops pulled me over in Berkeley, super cool. They gave me a white DA, and they gave me a white lady DA, and they gave me an Asian lady judge. So everything worked in my benefit, right? They dropped that whole case. But the other one
Okay.
that I got in a more Republican county, cops threw the book at me. Same type of issue.
Okay,
I
well
just had a little.
let me say this. I don't want to go too deep into your own personal experience because it could change based on each individual. But
Yeah.
you definitely enlightened me in regards to that cop that was going around. Where was
You need to
he? He's
check
out
up
in
on him.
California. Where was he doing that? Was it California or where was that at?
Southern California, yep.
Okay.
The cabin they followed him to was in Southern California, like the little mountains right up there.
Was all of that? Was all of his killings in California? Did he do them somewhere else? It was all in
No, it
California.
was all there. Yeah. The thing is, there's a couple other ones that happened, like Louisiana and Texas, kind of similar cases. Either an ex cop that kind of went sour on the whole force, or maybe even ex military. That was a couple other ones. There was ex military that just felt abandoned, by their country, and they just had
Well,
nowhere else to go.
I will say this: just like in the hood where they have a phrase "snitches get stitches." If you are on a police department, it's like being on an NFL team. If you snitch against your other teammates, yeah, you do tend to face some type of backlash. So yeah, you snitch if you're a
Well,
cop.
that's a perfect way to put it. Even though if most cops aren't like that, right? Because they think, oh, I'm snitching or I'm going against my team. But that's what they should do. But most don't, because they say, nope, as he might have screwed up there. I'll have a personal talk with him, or maybe not. But they're not going to go and tell their superiors or their upper management, whatever. They're just going to let it slide and, slowly start so and so kick dude. So, if someone really bothers me, I'm going to kick dude too.
Okay. All right. Well, listen, I appreciate you coming through. Let me go ahead and move it on. I don't want to get too deep in the cops because we're kind of talking about rolling back Roe versus Wade. But hey, come on
Okay.
through anytime, man. I appreciate that.
Yeah. Just look into that. Just the systemic racism doesn't mean that specific person's racist. It just means it's kind of built in. You feel me? It means some of these guys are.
I know exactly what it means. All right.
Okay.
Come on through anytime, man.
All right, well.
Interesting call. I didn't expect that. Definitely didn't expect that. Attorney George, I see your comments in there. Let's see here. UBI 2060. It's coming. Trust in Yeet. Scott Gibson, I don't get what you're saying. So go have a conference call with left individuals and see how far you get. Depends on the topic, Southern 530. Set in a little more yet. Timoteo 1276. I don't get that, but you're the one who believes that we are enslaved as of 1861. So it doesn't surprise me. I don't get your comment now. It was interesting having you on yesterday too, Timoteo, trying to explain us how we all are enslaved since 1861. And he's not just talking about black folks. He's a white man. Protesting in a church during a service is unacceptable. Protesting in a church during a service is unacceptable. You got to be talking about the abortion protesters. Let me say this in regards to that. I'm not a fan of interrupting the service or a game or a sports game protesting. However, in regards to the church, if you believe the church is the reason that what you're protesting about exists in the first place, why wouldn't you go there and protest? Just like when the right went and protested at the Capitol building, well, you believe that the politicians in that building were responsible for your unhappiness. Well, if the church, the evangelical right, is the one that's causing all of this, why wouldn't you go to the church and protest? That's what they're talking about in the church. When they, now that they're potentially about to reverse Roe versus Wade, you don't think some churches are going to be holding services on Sundays and thanking God that God answered their prayers and thanking their congregation for voting for the right? Yeah, they're discussing this. The 700 Club routinely talks politics. So if you're going to protest based on what has happened with the Supreme Court, I would say that's just my take on that. Martin Luther King led a protest from the church. Yeah, there's another one. It's not the church, it's the law. Aaron Justin, it's certainly the law, but this is the group, and make no doubt about it. There's a lot of money in churches, particularly the Catholic Church. They have a lot of money. There's a reason why you didn't know what was going on with children for so long. There's a lot of money in that organization. So I think it's fair game to protest. I really do. Don, thank you for that flapjack. I like that. That's good shit. State and church are separate. Southern 530. They supposed to be. They're supposed to be. That don't mean there are. Just like all men are created equal. That's what they said, but that doesn't mean it was what was actually happening. But I appreciate the comment. Must watch 2000 Mules. I tried to see that this weekend. I cannot find that. Where the hell is that movie? Why is that so hard to find? Why didn't that? I mean, it's only in Chicago, only one theater in the entire city of Chicago is showing that. Why is it so hard to find it online? Where is 2000 Mules, folks? I can send you the link, please, Don. And me and you have talked offline, obviously, with you being the moderator. Send that link to me ASAP. I really, really want to see that. And this is what you get for having a conversation with a lefty. Southern 530. Look, if as a lefty like myself, if my conversation is fucked up, you ain't even began talking to folks who lean far left. I consider myself to be a moderate. I consider myself to be an educated constituent who can see both sides of the aisle. If I'm too much for you, you must be way the fuck to the right. Because it only gets further left for me when you're talking to lefties. America is divided because of you fools. Ed Chep01, I guess I would ask you, give me your definition of fools. You said America is divided because of you fools. Give me your definition of fools. Bro, they're going to default us on the national debt. Do you get that? Timoteo, I get your alarmist nature about the national debt. I get that. You believe that we all are held captive to the national debt. I guess you believe that America's going to collapse and all of that. As far as I'm concerned, I don't see that happening in my lifetime. If I'm wrong and I'm sitting out homeless somewhere trying to, live off the remainder of some dog or some pet, like during the Depression when they had to eat horses and shit, I'll promise you, I will apologize for doubting you. We'll be one federal bank soon, Attorney George. 2, not a career politician. Who is not a career politician? I'm assuming you're talking about Trump. Red soon. Thomas Vision. I will tell you, if you'd have came to me last week before last, I would have told you a red wave is highly likely. This shit right now going on with Roe versus Wade, I still believe that it is certainly a better chance for Republicans in the midterms than Democrats. However, that red wave certainly has been neutralized somewhat. The idea that this rolling back of Roe versus Wade is not going to cause any votes, not going to affect any election, I don't believe that. I certainly believe there's going to be some politicians on November the 5th after the midterms are over with saying that Roe versus Wade did not help them. And it's going to be some Republican politicians. But that's still not to say the Republicans may not take Congress and the Senate. But everybody's not going to win because this has happened. Somebody said focus on Jesus. Dems playing the same games as 2220. I don't know what the hell that means because 2220 is 200 years in the future. So I have no clue what you're talking about there. It's happening as we speak. What is happening? Is that okay? I don't know what you're saying. Joe Biden caused all this inflation. Tucker 443. I'm in the camp about what happens under your watch. You're responsible for any inflation. You can blame it on pandemic. You can blame it on Putin. But at the end of the day, President Biden is the one in Washington. So if everything had went the other way and he wasn't responsible for it, he would be taking credit for it. So because it went negative, yeah, I'm in the camp that it's his responsibility. It's happening under his watch. Riots and violence, I don't know. Thomas, I don't know what you mean by riots and violence. To my opinion, both sides are corrupt. Al Coca, I'm in the same camp as you. There's plenty of corruption on both sides of the aisle. You're not going to escape corruption by voting right or voting left. It's on both sides. There's just no way you're going to escape it. The way our system is set up is designed to not only promote it, but to reward it to some degree. The Dems are going to cheat again like they did in 2020. MT Drifter, as far as I'm concerned, that's just a mere allegation with no proof. There is absolutely no proof that only Democrats cheated in 2020. None. I mean, like literally zero. You can talk about ballot stuffing. You can talk about the Dominion machines being able to be hacked. You can talk about illegal immigrants voting. You can talk about dead people voting. You can talk about anything you want. What you cannot prove is that only liberals did it. You're trying to get folks to believe that in a country of 330 million people, 64 million reportedly voted for Trump, 74 million reportedly voted for Biden. That's 140 million people. We're supposed to believe that all of the cheating, 100% of it, came from liberals. Republicans are just fucking honest as hell. They're walking around with halos on their head. You can't prove that shit. No way at all can you prove that. So when you say that the liberals are going to cheat again in 2020, what makes you think the Republicans didn't? Maybe they just got out cheated. You don't know. If we cheated, why wouldn't we remove McConnell? Well, if you want to look at it that way, what does that say? For fun in the sun. I like the name. Good point. Why wouldn't you remove McConnell or Romney? I guess Liz Cheney at this point. I get the point, but we could also counter that and say, if the liberals cheated, why didn't we take the Senate more convincingly? I mean, if you really want to look at it that way, the Republicans on the down ballots actually outperformed the polls. It's just Trump lost. But the down ballot Republicans in the Senate and Congress, they actually outperformed polls. If the liberals cheated, why didn't they do it better than that? Elizabeth's, I don't get that, Jubilant. Stop counting at 3 a.m., says Stony Man 22. Okay. But who's to say the counting they did was all liberal votes? Like I said, you can say that any kind of cheating you want took place. You cannot prove that 100% of that cheating was liberal. And the reason why you can't prove it is because you didn't even fucking investigate the Republican states. Is there any cheating in Texas? Well, you don't know. You didn't even check all of the states that Trump won. He just assumed they were all honest. You're talking about some of the biggest states in the union. How many metropolitan areas are in Florida? Who knows if there was any cheating there? He didn't investigate it. So you're never going to get me to believe that 100% of the cheating came from liberals. That's just fucking ridiculous. I'm not saying that there may not be some cheating from liberals, but the idea that no Republicans cheated at all, 100% honest, you really want somebody to believe that bullshit? They did audit in Arizona and came with, yeah, they did. They did multiple audits. Same thing in the state of Georgia. I believe in Wisconsin, they recounted and found out Biden had a few more votes. Enough with 2020. This is from a Republican. Enough Dems shut up about Trump. Repeat, shut up. Jimmy James 1234. You're promoting unity. I get that. In regards to both of the things you suggested, enough with the 2020 election. This is from Trump. Okay, you're pointing out that even the Republicans need to move forward. I believe Chris Christie talked about that in his own book. This is a good book, by the way. Chris Christie, Republican Rescue. He talked about the same thing. The best chance for Republicans to win in 2024 is to quit talking about what happened in the past. And in regards to your other comment, enough Dems shut up about Trump. Repeat, shut up. You're not going to get Democrats to shut up about Trump because Trump is not shut up about Democrats. That's the best way I can state that. Trump is actively heckling the hell out of the Biden administration. You really expect Biden voters to say nothing at all? I mean, just like, okay, let's take someone like Barack Obama or George W. Bush. Nobody's really attacking those people because they're not on the sideline heckling anyone. I think Obama recently said something, I believe, but for the most part, Obama's out surfing and George Bush is painting pictures of fucking clowns and shit like that. They're not heckling people, so people ain't fucking with them. Trump is actively attacking people constantly, and now he may be back on Twitter to do it even more. Nobody's going to be quiet about Trump because Trump is not quiet, but I appreciate the comment. It's both sides running their mouths. Exactly, Jubilant. Exactly. Good point. Let's see here. Who believes some cuckoo? What the hell did that say? Who believes some cuckoo from TikTok, money-making drama jokester? Okay, I'm assuming there's an insult about yours truly in there. And like I said, folks, no snowflake zone. I'm not making a lot of fucking money out of this. I'll tell you that, goddammit. You don't see me wearing hats and all kinds of shit popping up on this screen. If I was shaking these fucking B cups, if I could shake these B cups and twerk, I might get some. But no, I can't stand there and jiggle my titties and shit. So you don't see any. Look, folks, I'm a liberal. This is the audience I prefer talking to. So clearly I'm not in this shit for the money. I'm not going to get a lot of money from this crowd. I know that fucking going in, but I appreciate the comment. No Christian theocracy in America. I don't know where to go with that. I don't quite understand that. Pro-choice people only stand by abortion issue only. Okay, the pro-choice people only stand by abortion issue only. Well, there are evangelicals that only stand by the pro-life issue. There are plenty of single issue voters out there. I get that. There are folks who like to be able to protect themselves, to be able to hunt, stave off tyranny, that gun rights is pretty much the only thing they're willing to. There are single issue voters on every fucking issue. It's just the way it is. Let's see here. Shake it. Those aren't bees. Okay. You guys are cracking me up. Host, you know Barry has his hand up Biden's elbow deep. Okay. You believe that Barack Obama has his hand up. President Biden sphincter up to his elbow. Look, let me tell you this. In regards to if Biden is a puppet of Obama, if that was true, Biden would be performing a lot better because the Obama administration was actually fairly successful. The Biden administration is not. So I think that would eliminate any idea that Biden is performing according to Obama standards. He's not. He's not at all. Who cares? You're Joe Biden, rainbow, Twilight Zone, world of freaks, loony. There's a whole lot in that statement. Aaron, just in time. Do churchgoers go to clinics and stand between the doctor and patient protesting? Not usually, but those folks who are out in front of abortion clinics with dead babies and reading the Bible, they are churchgoers. They don't do what you're suggesting because that is illegal. And if protesters go and stand between somebody, they should get arrested too. But yeah, churchgoers are the main ones that are out at abortion clinics protesting. They are the ones doing that, which is why anybody who is pro-choice, I stated earlier in the broadcast, protesting at a church is fair game. Because the churchgoers are out there protesting. So they can't go to church and say, well, I don't want you to protest. I don't want you to protest while we're having service. Well, go tell that to the woman that you protested that has to go in through the back door to have a procedure done. You can't be a protester and say you don't like being protested. Trump worshipers are stupid enough to believe anything. Oh my God. God bless America. Okay, fair enough. In all honest, handsome, about the only liberal you can have a decent conversation with. David White. Thank you. Thank you. Listen, I'm happy to get any of you that I can get. It ain't easy. This is not an easy audience. They don't, and I encourage folks, give it to me raw, no chaser. That's fine. But yeah, this is not an easy audience to fuck with. You guys are getting those likes, and I appreciate it. We might hit 10,000 in here. Do churchgoers? I saw that already. Pro-choice allowed late-term abortions because of the issue. Tommy Tron, I think that banning late-term abortions is indeed something that we could all get behind. I think the vast majority of Americans are not in favor of second trimester abortions, and certainly not third. That's fine. But based on what we're seeing here, it's pretty clear that this is an attempt potentially to go towards banning all abortions. And it's no longer fear-mongering when you take into consideration the words of Mitch McConnell. And I read this in the beginning of the broadcast, but I'll read it again because we got different people in here now. This is coming from Mitch McConnell, the highest-ranking Republican senator in all of Washington. He stated in regards to the leak that came from the Supreme Court, the leak that has now let us know that they're entertaining potentially reversing Roe versus Wade. This is a direct quote from Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell. If the leaked opinion became the final opinion, he's talking about the leak, legislative bodies, not only at the state level, but at the federal level, certainly could legislate in that area. Mitch McConnell was asked, is a national abortion ban worthy of debate? And his response was, yeah, it's possible. That came from Mitch fucking McConnell. So anyone that tells you or suggests that a complete abortion ban is just liberal fear-mongering and it's not going to happen, they don't fucking know. No more than I know. We don't know if that's the goal or if that's what's going to happen is a complete abortion ban. But based on the words of Mitch McConnell, he just stated himself, it is possible. He just said it's 100% possible. So yeah, it's no longer fear-mongering. Mitch McConnell is a rhino. Okay. He's a politician, though. We don't give a shit if he's a rhino or not. He's actually in a position where he could make the shit that he's discussing happen. If we do get a complete abortion ban, it's going to go through his hands. So he is the gatekeeper, and he's making it clear I would let this through the gate. So it's no longer fear mongering, folks. That's all I'm gonna say. I feel like no woman is going to carry a fetus for 6 months, then decide I don't want this. That's not true, Jackie Cook. That's not true. I would say the vast majority of women are not going to do that. The vast majority of women are not in favor of doing that. But if that was legal, there are women that would do it. There are certainly women that would do it. Get mad at the baby daddy or depression. There's a host of reasons. But yeah, there are certainly people who would do that. I know somebody personally who claimed that she didn't even know she was pregnant until she was 5 months along. And she was an educated woman. She wasn't like somebody who just sitting around doing crack all day. I mean, she was an RN. Said she didn't know until she was 5 months along. You can tell me you don't believe it, whatever the case may be, that's fine. I didn't even. It sounds even crazy to me, but she did say that. So, if you could get an abortion at 6 months, I believe by far most women would not do it, but there would be some. There would be some. What people don't understand, most people doesn't care about situational abortion just as a contraceptive. I don't get that. Jenny leaked it. Who was Jenny? John Dees. Who was Jenny? I blame it on the forever pushing left who never compromises. Okay, what the fuck? You really think there's compromises coming from the right? Common sense gun legislation. You think there's common sense? You think there's compromise on the second? Look, there are things that both sides of the aisle do not or will not accept a compromise on. And the Second Amendment is on the right. So when you say that only the left does not compromise, no, it's on both sides of the aisle. The prison guard, oh, damn, she did that. You know something? Down 1964, the prison guard who helped the dude escape just died. Wow. This is the case out of Alabama where the 6'9" dude apparently, schmoozed or, ran some game on that prison. She was less than a week from retirement. 20 years working in the Department of Corrections or in a jail or wherever the hell she worked in one of the worst environments. And she completed 20 years without getting her life taken by an inmate or some of the other dangers and gave it all up for good dick. So I want you guys to understand that. I want you to understand that. Regardless of what females tell you, never underestimate the value of good dick. I just want to say that. I know how it sounds, but that's the only reason. That is the only reason why she did that. He ran some game on her and did that. Yeah, she offed herself. Bam, can you imagine though, 20 years on the other side, now you're going to be in prison? They would have, somebody like her, she probably would only got 5, maybe 10 years at the most, but you've thrown your pension, your career away, all of that. So she chose the other way out. Wow. She was very decorated, 4 times voted best guard or something. Yeah, that's crazy. That is really fucking crazy that you would let somebody talk you into just throwing it all away for 2 weeks. She had 2 weeks of good time. That's it. DK, what's going on? DK, can you hear me?
Hello, can you hear me?
Loud and clear. What's up?
What are your thoughts on masks?
You talking about the mask mandates and things like that they had in regards to COVID?
Yeah.
I didn't necessarily have a problem with it under most circumstances. I wasn't going to go to the gym, and back then I was working out a little bit more than I do now. Certain things it became almost impossible to do. Anything where you're going to be breathing heavy or you really have a high oxygen demand, it's going to be hard to wear a mask. But outside of that, at the time when we were dealing with a pandemic that most of us had no clue what it was, this is where the liberal in me comes out. Who am I to go tell a scientist you don't know what the fuck you're talking about? So I wore the mask. I wore the mask. That was my take. But go ahead.
Who did you vote for?
In which the presidential election?
Yeah.
President Biden.
Are you gonna vote for him again?
I would hope he don't run. I'm not a big Biden fan. I'm a liberal with buyer's remorse. Hopefully they send somebody else up there. But let me say this in defense of President Biden. He still has 2 years. So let's see what happens after these. Let's see what happens from these 2 years. Also, keep in mind, right now, and I admit I'm pro-choice. Let's see if he's able to rally the horses or whatever the hell you want to call it, rally the cards and do something about what the Supreme Court is about to do. So the jury's still out, but I'm at this point, I certainly would be the first to say that Trump was running the country economically as a business better than Biden. But Biden has 2 more years. Go ahead.
All right, that's all I needed to hear. Thank you.
Okay, fair enough. All right. Okay, back to the comments. Nothing wrong with the man calling. Like I said, folks, you get to state your point. He could have criticized the hell out of me for my decisions. He didn't do that. That's fine. But if he had, we would have talked about it. Let's see. Kamala will finish his presidency. Biden seems to be going downhill fast. But he ain't gonna go. The liberal administration is not going to go uphill by putting Kamala in there. Her poll numbers are terrible too. I think that Biden will remain in there for 2 years. I really do. I don't think he'll run again, but I do think he'll make the 2 years. Maskless, pure blood, enjoying life. Okay, an empty drifter. There are folks who smoke cigarettes until they're 95. I mean, everything doesn't affect everybody the same. Folks who have not been vaccinated. I'm doing fine. There's folks out there. Now, I've been vaccinated twice and boosted, but I know plenty of folks who have not. They're doing fine. No illness is guaranteed to kill everybody. Guys walking over your show. Okay. But it's crazy that I'm still thinking about that guard. I know I heard on the news, Don, you posted that in regards to that sheriff out of Alabama or whatever that she had. I had heard she shot herself, and they said it was life threatening. But man, that's crazy that she died. That she let that man talk her into that. I mean, 20 years on the force, and you really think you're going to escape with a 6'9" dude? Like, this is like the dick was good. I'm just going to tell you that the dick was good. For you to think you're going to run out of here with a 6'9" chick. That would be like, what is the chick? What is that movie, This Is Us? I can't think of the woman's name, but she's like 400 or 500 pounds. She plays on the NBC show, This Is Us. That would be like me thinking I'm going to escape with her. And I love me some BBWs. I love the big women. But you're not going to run across the country with a 400, 500 pound woman without somebody seeing you. A 6'9" dude. You've been on the force for 20 years and you got plans to escape with a 6'9" dude? I don't know. That dick was good. That's all I can say. I don't know how much about her. Did she have her family, kids? I don't know, but she had her mom. Her mom was on television telling her to turn herself in. I don't know if she had kids or not. She was a widow, so she had been married before and that guy had died. But I don't know if she had kids or not. She sold her house. Yeah, she had got like 90-something thousand bucks or whatever. They should have purchased. Well, you can't really purchase anything, and that's the thing. A lot of folks like to go off the grid and shit because everything we do leaves a paper trail. If you truly wanted to stay in America but not be traceable, it is extremely difficult to do that because everything you do has a digital paper trail to it nowadays. Because I would normally say, well, go buy a motorhome or something and go stay at a campground or something. But the motorhome has a paper trail, which is attached to your license plate. Like, there's really no way that I can think of where you would really be able to do it for any length of time. But 2 weeks is pretty damn short. That is really short. Biden lost, says KK Bros. Well, I guess the winner is chilling in Mar-a-Lago, huh? Okay, well, the loser will be in the White House for 2 more years. So think about that. How could Biden get anything done with members of his own party blocking and Republicans refute? That is true. Add ASH. Yeah, certainly with Joe Manchin of West Virginia. But the problem is Biden was elected to be a unifier. You can't blame anybody else if he's elected and he can't unify the Democratic Party. That's actually his job. He's supposed to be a unifier. He's not able to unify the players that are under him. So he would be like a bad coach. But I will agree that is really hindering the Biden administration is that he has several liberals that won't vote for any damn thing. I mean, Joe Manchin has voted against Joe Biden 30% of the time. That's a lot. That is a lot. If you voted against Trump if you were a Republican senator and you voted against the Trump legislation in the Trump agenda 30% of the time, you would probably need 24-hour security. You would be beyond being a rhino. You would be in the area of being an endangered rhino. Let's see here. Joe Manchin did a commercial for a Republican. Yeah, they need to get rid of him. They need to get rid of him. Tulip Fund 02. Yeah, they need to fucking get rid of him. In fact, I heard that the Republican Party had tried to court Joe Manchin and came to him and told him, "Why don't you just switch parties? We'll welcome you on this side." And he rejected that. But I heard that the Republican Party actually tried to court me. You coming across so bad on this side, you might as well just join us. So that's really bad. But yeah, Manchin has not been helpful biting it off. Free for all.
Hey, what's up, man?
Nice. Good afternoon. Good evening.
Hey, how are you? So, no,
Oh,
I,
good.
I just heard you talking about, kind of the mansions that typically don't vote, on the more liberal side of things, and they're the ones kind of blocking, whatever agenda it is that they might have at that time or whatever vote they want to pass. But on the other side of the aisle, we also have the rhinos.
Well, I get the rhino thing, but in my opinion, you guys make rhinos out of everybody. Liz Cheney, okay, I'm talking, for instance, I'm talking about
There's really
Manchin.
there's really only like five of them known, and I think I think the other side of the aisle has probably about the same.
This is what I mean when I say you make rhinos out of everything. I'm complaining about Joe Manchin, who only voted with Biden 70% of the time. 30% he voted against him. Liz
Okay.
Cheney voted with Trump 95% of the time. And y'all call her a rhino. That's not a rhino.
Well, I'm going to tell you this. I would say two out of the last three votes that they had that the Republicans had a real opportunity to win, the rhinos lost it for them. And on the liberal side, I would say the last two as well on their side. They're they're
Well,
their
real
respective candidates that you kind of knew were going to go one way, they went that way.
Okay, I
And
will say. Let me respond. First of all, real trucker Jeff said I call Cheney a turncoat. I would agree with that more than a rhino. If you want to say that Liz Cheney is a turncoat, I can
okay,
put that in the word. And here's somebody. Well, somebody. This is not in regards to what you just said, free for all, but somebody said Biden is a segregationist, and you voted for him. Good buddy of Robert Byrd. Look, when you look at what's happening in 2022, bringing up that old stuff, certainly with Trump as his competition, that stuff doesn't hold any water. But go ahead and throw it out there. Go ahead, free fall.
So wait, so you're talking about the 2020 election?
Yeah, well, the claim here from my conservatives, my preferred audience, my MAGA folks, they do believe the 2020 election should have went to Trump.
Um, you know, this is a very touchy subject, and I will get into it probably the best way I know how.
Okay.
Um, if you believe that the 2016 election was colluded by the Russians, then I don't know how you couldn't believe that the 2020 election was very much fraud induced as well. Because as a conservative, I don't know how many people will tell you this, but I certainly will. Not only the Democrats are involved in election fraud, Republicans are very much involved in it, and that is the fucking problem with our government. That is the whole reason that you as a red and me as a or I'm sorry, me as a red and you as a blue, we should both be pissed off at what's going on right now. This country has turned into a fucking fraud, and that's why I'm pissed.
Okay, now we getting somewhere. Now we fucking get somewhere. And this is what I say all the time: is that I believe in a country this large, virtually every election is going to have some impropriety in it because there's so many fucking people voting, and a lot of it is on the honor system. The problem I have with a lot of modern MAGA, modern Republicans and conservatives is that they're trying to claim that the 2020 election was only cheated. The only cheating came from the liberal side, and all the Republicans were honest. The way
Uh,
you're putting it, on the other
no,
hand,
that's not the
yeah,
case.
okay. The way
the
you're putting it,
The
I can't
case
say.
is that this time, I think it's been proven to be on the liberal side. But even as Dinesh D'Souza clearly stated in his video, and witnesses of him in his video said that no, this goes on the local level. This has benefited Republicans. I also think it benefited George George W. Jr. when he was elected. I mean, it doesn't just go one way. It goes whatever way they want it to go. That's the point.
Let me ask
It
you this.
doesn't go the way we want it to go.
Let me
That
ask
should
you.
be the point.
Let me ask you this though. I get your point. And so far, I think we're on the same side. But let me ask you this, and I guess this will separate the men from the liberals. What do you think about Trump's claim on election night, stating that he had won by a landslide? Do you believe that?
No, I don't know that it was by a landslide. I do believe that when here's the thing. Here's what I know, and here's what I felt. And I had an inkling, when I went to bed. I had an inkling when I woke up. When I went to bed, I was like, okay, it looks like Trump's going to win this. It looks like it's going to be pretty close, right? Then I woke up and it was like landslide Biden. And then I watched all of the news, and how everybody just stopped reporting votes at right about 2 o'clock in the morning. And it's like, okay, what the hell's going on here? And then we woke up and it was something totally different when a lot of these, I don't know, it seemed a little fishy to me. And now that I've kind of listened to both sides, and I never wanted to really take a side, and, I'm not one of the January 6th people. No, I don't think there was an insurrection. I think there was a bunch of pissed off people that had an inkling that shit was going awry. So whatever. It is what it is. But yeah, I do think that either way, our election system is flipping rigged, and I don't like it. I don't
All
like
right.
it at all.
Something, and like I
I want
said,
people to vote and get what they want. That's all I want.
okay,
That's really all I want.
and like I said, I can entertain it from the way you're presenting it, that there are gaping holes in our election process that allow nefarious characters to slip through. I like that statement a lot better than only liberals cheat. I like your statement a lot better than that. It makes more
No,
sense.
anybody that can cheat will cheat, especially if there's money involved. What the fuck?
Okay, fair enough. Fair enough. I don't, like I said, the way you're presenting it, we might be able to get somewhere. And I strongly believe, and I've said this numerous times on many broadcasts.
They're all cheating.
Yeah, and I've said this several times, that Trump should have done a 50-state investigation, did an audit in all 50 states, and went to the courts with all of the evidence he found of impropriety.
Yeah.
From
That
both
way, if
sides.
it was there, we could have found it. And it shouldn't be happening for either side. If the majority of this country wants something, that's what should happen. Period. I don't care. And all they want to do now is pick out the minorities that don't get what they want. Listen, this is a country of majorities. If the majority gets together as the people and they decide that that's what they want, that's what they want. That is the fair process. That is what our country is founded
Well,
upon.
the majority of this country wants pro-choice for women, at least up in the first trimester, right?
Hey, listen, I don't really have a solid stance on that. I'm a believer in life. Yeah, I like life. I like pro-life. Here's the thing, and I also believe in my my higher being, and I believe that my higher being is going to judge me based on what I do, and I also believe that if those other people have that same belief, or even if they don't, that they're going to have their judgment day as well. If I get my little 10 seconds with them to say, hey man, maybe you don't want to give that up, then that's on me. But I'm not gonna go out there and tell a bunch of women that they can't do what they want. It doesn't fucking affect me. I don't care.
All right, fair enough. So you believe that while you're pro-life, you don't believe in forcing your beliefs on someone else.
I sure don't.
Okay.
My sister had an abortion.
And,
And she also had two beautiful baby girls after that. So really,
well, I've said
I go out there
numerous
and be
times.
against it?
Yeah, I've said numerous times that most women probably know at least one other woman that's had an abortion if they haven't had it themselves. So it's that common. It is that common.
And I'm also a husband who's going through IVF treatment with his wife and has spent probably 3 down payments on a house trying to have a kid. So yeah, I mean, I do feel very strongly about life. But I've not been on the other side of it directly. So that's on you. You do you, and whatever.
Let me ask you this question in regards to IVF. One of the issues, and I don't, you don't have to go. I'm gonna ask you some personal shit, but if you don't want to go there, you don't have to. But I'm gonna ask you this:
Sure.
in regards to the way they're about to potentially ban abortion, one of the defenses is that as opposed to aborting a child, why don't you just give it up for adoption? Because there's plenty of people who want to adopt children that can't. And I guess I would ask you, why not adopt as opposed to IVF?
Well, my wife and I, we've been together about 10 years, and we've been pregnant one time, and unfortunately it didn't go our way. That was pretty early in our relationship, but I think, obviously we've been married for 6 years now. For the past 2 years, we've been trying to have a baby and have been unsuccessful. So we decided to see if that was an option we could look into to try and have a natural baby, to see, if we tested, you know, hey, what's going on? Is it her? Is it me? Is it both of us? Whatever. So we figured that out.
So
They told us,
if,
yeah, we
if
can probably take your cells and go ahead and have a baby. You just might be having a problem here or there, or carrying it, to term or whatnot. So we decided to give it a shot.
I kind of wonder if because if they're starting to implement um, they're starting to implement laws somewhat based on biblical prophecies, whereas we want things to occur the way our deity expected them to. Because they're also talking about potentially banning some contraceptives. I kind of wonder if IVF is something that may not ultimately get targeted.
Well, no, and you know what? I've actually thought about that before, because if we can, well, and I think my only worry is that they'll think, that it's like playing God or cloning or something like that, and it's not. They literally take your wife's egg and your sperm, and they just they get them to fertilize, because a lot of times with infertility, it's a problem with the male getting to the female and actually doing the whole fertilization process. So it's not like our
Well,
the baby is created in the lab. But I do get what you're saying, that
yeah,
could
because
be well.
they're going to say if you can't have birth the natural way, that's going to say if you can't have birth the natural way, that's because God didn't intend it for it. Just like with stem cell research,
You're
they
correct.
believe that
Correct.
if God didn't do it, it's not meant to be done. So that's
Yeah.
why I'm suggesting that some people may go after IVF.
That, and you know what? I don't think you're incorrect. I think because I mean, if we're gonna start down this road, um, and I think the reason that Roe v. Wade is being attacked right now is because of the whole Ron DeSantis, and everybody believing that sexualization is happening to whatever. Yeah, I think the reason that Roe v. Wade is being attacked right now is because of the other assault that the right believes, and people are really going extreme with it, and regression may start to take place.
Now, listen to this comment. It's right in line with what we're talking about. This is coming from April Stoll in the comments. Republicans want to ban IVF too because what happens to fertilized eggs that don't get implanted? That's a really good point. She's right
Actually,
about it.
well, I can actually I can attest to that comment, and we are next in line for one if it doesn't. So when embryos that don't get implanted, the mother and father of those embryos, they can sign a waiver and say, um, you want to save those for future implantations, or you can donate them to couples who haven't been able to have successful embryos, and they can then go ahead.
What if you want to discard them?
I don't know. No, I can't speak to that. I'm not sure I'm not sure if that's an option, because we haven't had that option yet. We've only taken the option of, possibly taking a donated embryo. But no, I do not know about discarding, if you can, or what they do with them, or no, I don't know that.
The reason I'm asking this, I believe it was I cannot think of her name right now. She played in
But
Modern
no,
Family.
I see where your point's going. I see
And
exactly where your point's going.
the
If
reason
the discard of those embryos, how is that not?
Well,
not an abortion, right?
yeah, and the
Exactly.
reason
No, I see where you're going with it.
yeah, the reason I'm bringing that up is Sophia. I think her name is Sophia Vergara. She's an actress. She plays in Modern Family, and she's been in a host of movies. Her and her ex-husband did exactly what we're talking about here, and they separated. They had a contentious divorce, and the husband was trying to keep the embryos, and Sophia was like, I don't want a baby. Like, get rid of them. And they were literally fighting in court in regards to what to do with that. So it's cases like that that comes up.
Yeah. No, and I don't know. I guess basically by what I just said, I would also think the same thing. If we're just discarding, I just think I think there are very logical differences between the two, and I think us as a society, I think we know how to differentiate those differences. I think we know how to not use, um, you know, let's make common decisions on contraceptives. Let's make things affordable. Let's make sure we're paying attention to our patients and whether or not that's the best thing for them. And then also, on the other side with the abortions, let's make sure we're not using that as contraceptive. Let's make sure that we're educating. Let's make sure we're taking care of our patients, and
Well,
let's
let
make
me
sure
let
that
me let me
we're
say
also
this.
making a conscious decision about life.
Okay, let me say this because Eddie P74 in the comments said, "Where are they banning contraceptives?" I have not heard that. The gist behind that, Eddie, is that if you believe life begins at conception and your goal is to protect the sanctity of life, there are contraceptives that actually do not work until after conception, such as I won't say they do not work, but they actually can still work after conception, such as the IUD,
Yeah.
certain birth control pills. You can take birth control pills in high dosages. The morning after pill is another one that works after conception. So that's what I'm talking about. They're going to target certain types of contraceptives because they believe the life has already began. Therefore, you can't take the morning after pill, things like that.
Well, now I would urge you to look into exactly what you're talking about, the morning after pill, the IUD. So there is generally a 24-hour path that things have to follow, and they have to go through certain paths, and certain things have to happen. So when you're looking into the morning after pill, there are things that haven't happened yet that would make it true conception.
Okay.
So yeah, I mean, look into all that. And here's the thing: I don't know that I agree with any or all of that either. Maybe I'm more the conservative type of, uh, prevention of getting pregnant. But here's my thing: it's just, yeah. I mean, I want lives to live if they can. If a mother's life is in danger, then by all means, those things have to happen. If there's SA and R word involved, those things may have to happen. And I'm not against any of that. And I believe that there should be provisions for all of that. I just don't believe in widespread thought that we should just be okay with, like, okay, I got pregnant, let me just go
Well,
get abort. Like, that's what I'm a little against. That's all.
okay. Okay, fair enough. Well, listen, I want to go ahead and move the program on. I guess somebody else wanted to get in here, but I
Sure.
appreciate you coming in and giving your thought. Follow the
Yes.
program. And like I always say, in regards to women, what you're talking about, getting abortions and using them as birth control, I strongly believe there would be less of that if we were willing to assist new mothers with more assistance and not chopping them off,
Yep.
limiting food stamps, limiting welfare, limiting all of that. If we were willing to help them out a little bit more, I think you would have, because that's one of the primary reasons why a lot of women have an abortion is because money, financial issues. So, but appreciate you coming on in, man.
Yes, sir. Hey, thank you, sir. I appreciate. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Good call. Good call. You have a good evening.
Yes, sir. You too.
Okay. Roger the Roofer, I see you have been waiting for a minute. I'm the average looking liberal. I like it. Okay, I'll take that. Ending abortion means finding new things to use. Okay, Roger the Roofer. Wait, go ahead. What's up?
Good evening. How you doing?
I'm doing real good. And yourself?
headed up your way.
Okay, fair enough. What's going on? What's on your mind tonight?
So here's what I think's wrong with our whole country. They're over here arguing about something that affects a woman personally, and giving all of our money to all these other countries. How come we ain't taking care of our people that's already here? Our veterans that are homeless.
Giving you my, I hear that a lot. And here's my point on that. Anytime a politician, particularly liberals, usually it's liberals, appreciate that Crane, Don. Anytime a politician, particularly on the left, is using tax money to go to something that the other side is not in favor of, they bring up, what about homeless? What about the veterans in this country? What about my problem with that is if those people, homeless, veterans, or whatever entity you want to name, if they were being taken care of, and then all of a sudden Putin attacked Ukraine, and we started diverting money from the veterans to give to the Ukrainians, I think we would have a point. But the issue is we weren't taking care of those people before these events began. So it's not like we actually care about those folks. We're just using them as a distraction. Instead of donate money to, illegal immigrants, why don't we help our veterans? Well, we didn't always have an illegal immigrant problem. Yet the veterans were still complaining that they weren't being taken care of. So it's not like we actually care about helping these folks out. We're just using them as a distraction because of what we don't like right now. So I don't really like that, but I get your point you're trying to make.
I'm not talking about just what's going on right now. I'm talking about just in general. My granddaddy was in World War II, got shot, and when he died when I was 25 years old, he was drawing a month. And when he got out, now he was disabled. He was drawing every month what I made in a week and expecting to live off that.
Well, I mean, that's because we do not appreciate our civil servants in this country. Civil servants have always been abused and misused and underpaid. That's probably why that happened.
And I just, I'm like you. Both sides are crooked, and I just feel like they can't get nothing done because they're always arguing about something that don't really matter as much as they think it does. Let's do something about the gas prices.
I will say this: every issue matters to somebody. It may not matter to you, it may not matter to me, but it matters to somebody. Like, for instance, I wasn't when there was a big argument over whether LGBT community members should be able to marry the person of their choice. As a liberal, my response was the same as yours. Why do you care if your neighbor wants to marry another man? But it was very important to right wingers. Right wingers found that was very important to them.
But then again, that don't, if my neighbor goes marries a man, that don't affect me. I'm still gonna sleep on my pillow the same way I did last night. But what affects me and what affects you and everybody else is gas price, food going up. Gas has went up, or diesel has went up in my little town 70 cents in the last 10 days.
Yeah, obviously the price we're paying at the pump is the economy in general. Hence the phrase, "It's the economy." The economy in general affects us all. So I don't disagree with that, but we have to be able to walk and chew bubblegum at the same time. Just because you're focusing on one issue does not mean you ignore all the other issues. This is the same argument I give in regards to racial issues when folks say instead of focusing why not focus on both at the same time? Why does that have to be either or? You can focus on more than one issue simultaneously. There's 300 and some million people in the country. We don't have to be single issue at a time voters. We can focus on all this stuff simultaneously.
I don't, and this is just me. I don't think racism is as big as the media makes it out to be. Not where I'm at, anyway.
Where you're at? Where are you?
I'm just north of Memphis, Tennessee. Where I
Okay.
live, I mean, my best friend's black. My
Let me ask you a question. That's interesting you would say that because Memphis, Tennessee, Shelby County. That's Shelby County, right?
I'm one county north.
Okay.
Yeah.
Isn't there two? Isn't due to racial issues of the past? Is there not two mayors in Memphis
Yes,
because they didn't want the?
you got a county
So
mayor
that's about
and a
as
city mayor.
that's about as deeply rooted in racism as you can be. That they actually have two mayors, a mayor of white people predominantly and a mayor of black people.
But here's the funny thing, okay? The mayor, so Memphis is majority black, okay? And the county is
Okay.
majority white.
Right.
But the
So they got
county has a black mayor. No, the county has a black mayor, and the city has a white mayor.
but the reason there's two mayors is deeply rooted in racism, correct?
No, the way, because I mean, like where I live, there's three. You have, and this is just the bigger towns, okay? You got Atoka, Mumford, which are split by a highway, and then you have Covington. We all have mayors, and then we have a county mayor. That's the way Tennessee's set up.
Well, here's the thing. I will agree with you in regards to your earlier point. I don't believe that the racism that exists in 2022, and let's just be clear, there always will be racism. I'm not just talking about anti-black. I'm just simply saying as long as you got two different types of people, there's always going to be a difference of opinion and somebody not liking somebody. But I will say this: I don't think the issues in 2022 are anywhere near what they were in 1952. But we're not 100% there. And that's the only thing I would say.
Right. I agree with that. I don't think we're 100% there neither, but I don't think it's as bad as the media makes it. Makes it. I really don't. Like I said, my best friend's black. He's married to a white girl.
Well, in
His kids
regards
call
to,
his kids call me Uncle Roger. My
okay,
wife's got a stepsister in jail. Her kids are half black, and they live in my front yard with my mother-in-law in a double wide trailer. And me and my wife pretty much help raise them. You know,
well,
and I would.
in re,
They're just
I'll
like
say
my
this in
kids.
regards, yeah, I will say this in regards to saying the media makes things worse. Yeah, that's 100% true. I think everybody
They
will
make
use the
everything
media
worse.
to it. Yeah, because okay, a good example when we had issues at the border during the Trump administration, they were claiming that they were making it sound like there were heaps of rapists and murderers coming across the border, or that Middle Eastern men were
Right.
crossing the border. In regards to the actual numbers of Middle Eastern men coming across the southern border, it was minute. It was exceptionally minute. But when you listen to the Trump
Yeah.
administration, you think half of the Middle East was coming over here.
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, that's just like you know, like the crime. You know, like in Memphis. Every time you turn the news on, there's somebody getting killed or somebody stabbing somebody, and somebody. I really believe that if they would quit making these people famous on TV, a lot of it would quit too, because you know and I know people want to be recognized, whether it's good or bad.
Well, also too though, like I was saying with the media, I'm gonna tell you from an African American standpoint. When I was a child, back before we had all of the black on black crime we have now, that is a product of drugs. It wasn't as violent back then as it was now.
Right.
But that still didn't stop the media from portraying blacks as extremely violent. Because we used to say this all the time. Why do they go and find the person who can't talk, the worst looking black person, always put on TV? That was something we used to always complain about. And it's crazy because now I hear a lot of my preferred audience, MAGA folks, Republicans, white people, that say the media makes them look bad. And I tell them all the time, you should have seen how we were complaining about it. Because that's exactly what the media used to make us look like shit. And now you have the other side saying they're doing it to them.
The media makes everybody look bad. Whether you're a Democrat or a Republican or black, white, Spanish, whatever.
Yeah.
They make everything look worse than what it really is.
Well, that's to some degree though. That's their job, and it's not just the media; it's politicians. I mean, I've seen some of the old war on drug commercials from the '80s, and they really just made it look like black folks are zombies. I mean, if you look at some of the old late 1980s commercials with Reagan and stuff like that in there, it's hard not to look at those commercials in today's day and time and not think of those commercials as racist, because it was just all
Well,
black folks. It just was
yeah.
all black folks. They're just like, wow.
Well, I mean, even when I was growing up, I don't think racism was as bad as the news made it out. I grew up in Mississippi, in North Mississippi, and where I went to school at, it was literally 50% black and 50% white.
We did
You know,
what
yeah,
year? What year? Give me an era. When were you? What years are you talking about?
in the early '90s,
Okay, all right.
and I rode a school bus. I mean, and the school bus dropped everybody off on one road, and like I said, it was half black and half white. We'd all get off the school bus and eat, and we'd meet in the middle and play football in the fields. And in the
Well, I
summertime, we went fishing and played baseball, played football, rode bikes, whatever.
I
I
will
mean, it
say
wasn't
this
nothing for
though.
my mama to come home, and
I will say
it wasn't
this.
nothing for my mama to come home, and it
Okay,
would be 20 kids at the house, and 10 of them black, or
okay.
vice versa.
I will say this though. In regards to racism, whether it exists or not, you can be living through some strong racism and never see it. Because even if you go back to the 1940s, 1950s, when everybody nowadays admit the 1940s and 50s were racist, the people living in that time were saying it's not racist. Even when Martin Luther King would come in towns like yours, like Memphis, for instance, they would tell him, "I don't know why you're coming here and stirring up trouble. These people were fine until you got here." So the issue is not necessarily whether racism exists or not. I guess the question we have to ask ourselves is, when did it end? Because we know, no matter what, we know throughout history it was definitely there. But there's always been chief
Right.
deniers. Even if you go back to the era of slavery, there were folks saying they're getting free housing and food. I don't know what they're complaining about. So there has always been a denial that it's even taken place. So you have to figure out, like I said, we all admit it took place in the 50s and 60s. So it's like,
Oh, yeah.
well, when did it end? That's the only issue we have.
It ends when we quit talking about it, I think. Kind of like how Morgan Freeman said, I'm going to call you a man and you call me a man. I'm not going to call you a black man. You don't call me no white man. And eventually it goes away because everybody goes looking at
You know
everybody the same.
something? I seen that clip, and I gotta say I disagree with that, and I'll tell you why. I have never heard of any form of oppression that disappeared simply because the oppressed stopped talking about it. Whether it's women's rights, whether it's LGBT, if you stop talking about an injustice, it does not tend to go away. I don't know what made him say that, but I gotta disagree with that.
You
I
know,
mean, really, do you believe that slavery would have ended if folks just stopped talking about it? They were making a ton of money off of that.
well, I will say this. You know, back when I was growing up, I'd be like, hey, mama, my birthday's coming up. Can Joe come over? Well, who's Joe? The black boy I ride the school bus with. But now, you know, you know, I call my mom and say, hey, we're having a birthday party for one of your grandsons. Well, who's all coming? Andre's coming, and
Yeah, but
that's my buddy. I don't say it,
you talking
I
about
don't
it
say that's my
you talking
black
about it
buddy.
from a very yeah, but you're talking about it from a very not a macro but a micro level. You're just talking about kind of your own personal life.
Right.
There even during slavery, there were white people who were not down with slavery. There were what they call abolitionists. You could be around that and think that it's not that bad, even though you're living in the midst of slavery. Somebody in here made a good point. Home Like Jim said racism does exist. Ask a conservative African American. That is an excellent comment. Because if you are a black person and you are on the right side of the aisle, you will undoubtedly encounter racism, typically from other black folks. I mean, even as a guy whose name is clearly liberal, The fact that I don't just continue to promote liberals 100% of the time, I encounter it. Somebody called me today in this forum. Somebody just called me an Uncle Tom or some shit like that. So that is an excellent comment, Home Light Jim. I do agree with that. But go ahead, Roger.
That
I'll
just
let you
shows
finish it.
whoever called you that. That just shows that that their stupidity.
I get it
That's
all
the
the
way I
time.
see it. You
I
know,
get it all the time.
but
Yeah.
don't let it bother you because that shows their stupidity. I appreciate everything. I'm not real big on social media, but you are one of the ones that I got set on my phone to notify me when you go live, and I'll watch it if I can.
I appreciate that. Well, listen, I do want to roll it on, but anytime,
Yep,
come on
roll it
through.
on, buddy.
Awesome, awesome. It's always good to hear from you, man. You have a good evening.
You too. You too.
All right. Okay, we got Mac 10 USMC, another frequent viewer. Always a friend of the program. Let me see. For some reason, it's saying the connection fell with him. I don't know. Maybe he dropped out. You not like them other black guys is what he said. Sugarnomics. Are you talking about that? Suge Knight. I like that name. Yeah, not like them other black guys. What can I do, man? What can I do? Some folks are cool like that, and then others, I don't know what to say. Let's see. Real Trucker. People didn't move to Germantown. I didn't get that. What did that say? People didn't move to Colorville or Olive Branch because Memphis was so united. It's a great point. Used in 1962. I don't know. Well, he said he lives one county away from Memphis, so maybe his county. I don't know, but Memphis, yeah, Memphis is heavily divided. Real Trucker. Good evening.
Hey, evening, handsome liberal. How we doing?
I'm doing real good. What's up?
Hey, I just had to dial in because we've had this on. I think I'm getting some feedback on you, so I'll probably dip out real quick. But we have this conversation about the party switch and something that was just mentioned. And they talk about how you will experience racism if you're black and conservative, and you get it on your side too, even though you're liberal. If you don't stay right in line with the narrative of the left, they come at you, right?
I am the Liz Cheney of the left. I'm a rhino. I'm a rhino.
but right, but but my point is, back in the days of say segregation, white people were fine with black people as long as black people were doing what they wanted them to do, right? As long as
Okay.
as long as they weren't making any kind of waves or anything. So my point is, the civil rights when civil rights was passed and LBJ said that he would have black people voting for 200 years, there was the expectation that black people would behave the way they're supposed to, the way the Democrats wanted them to. You see what I'm saying? So if you do anything to ruffle feathers, they lose their freaking minds, right?
Okay. And that could be a fair point, but Lyndon Johnson did not control Republicans. Lyndon Johnson would be what Lyndon Johnson said by giving black folks civil rights. I'm gonna have them voting this way for 200 years. It makes sense if the Republican Party stands back and does nothing or continues being racist to black folks. If they reach out to black folks and try to also gather black voters, then what Lyndon Johnson said would go out the window. It's working because the Republican Party has very little outreach to the African American community.
Well, I think that's true, and I think I've mentioned this before. I don't think they really went out of the way, and I think there is an element of racism to that. But then also, when you're thinking about the Republican Party, they're not going to do something special for women and something special for black people and something special for Asians. It's a different mindset. They want it's an equality versus equity argument. So I wouldn't expect, even if there's zero racism in the Republican Party at all, I wouldn't expect them to say, well, we're going to do this special thing for black people. It's just not how, everybody needs to be treated the same.
Then, based on what you're saying, if Republicans believe in equity and not doing anything special for any race of people, why are they constantly suggesting that Barack Obama should have did more for blacks?
Barack Obama shouldn't be a what?
No, I'm saying if you're saying that the Republican Party should not be doing anything special for any group of people, it should be all about equity. Why are they always saying Barack Obama did not do enough for black people?
Oh, I don't know that it's Republicans saying that. If you're looking at if the expectation is on that side that okay, so you voted for Barack Obama, with the expectation that he was going to do something for black people, right? So,
No, he's supposed to do something for the citizens of the country, according to you, not just one race of people.
but he's a Democrat though. So if I'm looking at what the Democrats are doing, then they're going to have their special interest groups that they all give special favors to. That's how they keep the coalition together.
Right.
So if he right, so you're going, okay, well, so your theory as a Democrat is I'm going to hire Obama because he's going to do special things for different groups of people. So if I'm sitting at a Republican going, he didn't do any of that, that's to remind you, hey, you didn't get what you wanted out of the guy, right?
Okay. But you can't expect a guy to get elected and do something specifically for a race of people. That would be racist.
Well, yeah, but that doesn't but that doesn't stop that doesn't stop the Democrats really, right? Don't
Well,
they?
it stops this one because I talked to enough Republicans, conservatives, and MAGA to know that this is one of those what they call it, six and a half dozen or the other. If Barack Obama, right now the claim is Obama did not do enough for black people. If Obama had got in office and started coming up with all sorts of legislation aimed at bettering black folks, the claim would have been he's being racist. We didn't elect you to only look after black folks. The same thing with them claiming he didn't do enough for Chicago. The argument would have been we didn't elect you to be the president of Chicago. You're supposed to look out for everybody, not just for blacks, not just for Chicagoans. But because he got elected and he did not just look out for blacks and Chicagoans, then they chose to say, well, why didn't you do more for blacks and Chicagoans? It would neither, no matter what he did in the case of, in that era, he would have
Yeah,
got blamed for it.
yeah, and that's politics. That's just how politics is. But but anyway, I just wanted to give you that. I know there's something going on with my earpiece. I'm getting some feedback. I'm probably killing your audience. But I just wanted to. I'm going to keep feeding you those little nuggets until you're like, oh well, maybe the parties didn't switch after. Oh, let me just say this. Let me just say, so okay. I understand that we disagree about how that things panned out, and it's not as simple and straightforward as we want to say it. But I just want you to know that if, as a Republican, if I believed that the Republican Party was that old party of Jim Crow and all that racism and stuff like that, I wouldn't be in the GOP, right?
Let
So,
me ask you this, in regards to what you're talking about right now. Let me ask you this: knowing that the Democratic Party, knowing that the Democratic Party was the party of slavery, was the party of Confederates, you have to look at 2022 and ask. Obviously, black folks would not have voted for the party of slavery during that time. They would not have supported the party of slavery during that time. So you have to ask, why are they voting Democrat now if the Democratic Party has a history of slavery? What happened to make black people suddenly stop being Republican and actually vote for the party of slavery? What took place?
well, I don't think it happened suddenly. If you look at the history of African American voting habits, they started to transition to the Democrat Party when FDR was in office, right? Because here again, the Republicans weren't really offering anything. He was saying chicken in every pot. Even though there were still KKK, there were lynching people, all that was going on in the 40s, 30s, and 40s. Even though that was going on, you had a president that was promising that you were going to have some food in your belly. So that's
So
when
let
you
me,
started to see.
let me ask you a follow up. The Democratic Party was the party of slavery, the party of Confederates. What happened to make Confederates now vote Republican?
Oh, I don't know that they do. The thing is
Are
when
you
when
kidding
you
me? Are you kidding me? You're telling me you think the Confederates are voting Democrat
now
in
when you now
2022?
look when here's the thing. Now that people talk about Nixon and the Southern strategy and stuff like that, but you have to realize here again that situation, you had a lot of people from the north migrating to the south when it became industrialized. So the majority of what Nixon was going after were northern transplants into the south, into the cities, right? So you still in that's a fact. You still would have some backwoods rednecks that never even saw black people, that type of lived in the rural areas. You would have those would have still been, very racist and stuff, and would have been with the Democrats. But the votes that Nixon was going after were the more cosmopolitan, effete people that had relocated and started industry
I
in the
don't.
South.
I don't think. I mean, I understand what you're saying about the North and some folks migrating, but there are some true rednecks down in the South that have not migrated. Their entire history is down in the South, and they don't vote Democrat. I don't. I could understand more of your argument of blacks actually taking a liking to FDR, but your argument in regards to why Confederates went from Democrat to
Well, I think
Republican, I
well,
can't buy that.
the Democrats in the South, they started to vote more. They didn't start to vote Republican until after Ronald Reagan. When you had the economic strategies of Reagan that were beneficial to basically everybody, that converted a lot of people. Plus, you have the Democrat Party was getting away from religion too. They were becoming a less of a religious party. You get a lot of religious folks in the South.
I'm not laughing. I'm looking at Papa Wika Wika's comment. It says, "Hey, truckers, stick with lot lizards." Oh my God! But I'm willing. Like I said, I would be more willing to entertain your theory on African Americans in regards to FDR. But what you're saying about the Confederates going from the Democratic Party of slavery to the Republican Party, and not only the Confederates switch parties, the Republicans themselves have accepted the Confederate movement, and the Democrats have essentially ostracized it. And I don't think what you're saying, in my opinion, is an adequate explanation for that. I mean, other than because to me, I think based on these things we're talking about now, I think it is undeniable that the switch took place. Now we can say it didn't happen all overnight. I'm fine with that, but it's clear.
Wait. Okay, so if the switch happened, now the father of the progressive movement is Woodrow Wilson, right? He was a president from like 1919 or something like that, right? Way back in the early 1900s. Woodrow Wilson's a progressive Democrat. You saying he was a Republican? Are you saying FDR was a Republican?
Okay, wait a minute. You're saying you say Woodrow Wilson is the father of the progressive movement.
Oh, absolutely.
Some would say FDR. I'd have to look more into what you're saying. Now we're down to one individual president. I'd have to look more into it because some would say FDR was. And somebody also brought up, Sugar Numbers brought up, what about the Dixiecrats? The Dixiecrats did do a party switch. What about them? And that is true.
No, they didn't. The Dixiecrats, there were a few hundred Dixiecrats, right? There were governors and they were in state houses and in Senate, Congress, right? So there were hundreds of them. Who switched? Strom Thurmond. One guy. And Strom Thurmond switched because he had a black child. He had a child with his maid. So if the Democrats found out that he was getting the black maid pregnant, he'd have had a problem. So it's obvious why he switched.
I will say this: a lot of times when it comes to politics, a lot of us take heed and listen a lot to what our parents tell us, particularly if they've lived during the time. And I will tell you that among African Americans that lived during that time, the notion that a party switch took place is overwhelmingly evident to them. So, my grandmother who was alive during that time, yeah, they definitely it was a party switch. Now, I get what you're saying, but I'm telling you from somebody who was alive during that time, who lived during the civil rights era and all of that, she gives me a different explanation.
But the South didn't. They were still voting Democrat. Like, what switched? If she grew up in the South during the civil rights movement, they were Democrats when it started and they were Democrats when it finished. They didn't switch anything.
Well, and that goes to the point you made earlier. A switch in terms of a country this large does not happen overnight. But it definitely, with the Democrat Party giving African American civil rights, the idea that would not switch a lot of people to the Democratic Party doesn't make sense to me. I mean, you got one.
Sure, that would have. That's understandable why why black people would start voting Democrat, because they saw even though LBJ was super racist, he hated black people. He used the N-word like a comma.
It doesn't matter.
Right. And I know it doesn't.
President Lincoln also said that he would not free any slave if he didn't have to. Doesn't matter if he wanted to do it or not. He did it. He's the reason it happened, so he's going to get credit for it
Right.
whether he wanted to it or not. Without him, it wouldn't get done. So we got to give him
Right.
credit for
So
that,
yeah,
do it or not.
so that's understandable why you would have black people make that move. But what I'm saying is, when you look at the party and the values and what the parties represent, the Democrats haven't changed. Look, back in the around FDR's time, you had the KKK, right? Now you got Antifa, right? They're still burning down black neighborhoods. They're still rioting. That mentality of Democrats didn't change. Their
Here's
mentality
the
didn't change.
here's the problem with what you're saying. And let's say everything you said is 100% true. It doesn't match the optics. And what I mean by that is when you look at the Trump administration, when you look at the George Bush administration or the Reagan administration, it is nearly all white. And then when you look at the Clinton administration, you look at the Obama administration or the Biden administration, the shit looks like the rainbow. So the argument that the Democrats are the party of racism and the Republicans are the party of tolerance, it doesn't fit the optics. Even if what you're saying is 100% true, what you're seeing with your eyes, it does not match. You're looking at let's take just President Biden alone, because I get a lot of folks in here saying that Biden is racist. President Biden alone, through either direct appointment or through association, is responsible for the first black president, Barack Obama, the first black female vice president, or Asian if you want to throw in there, with Kamala Harris. First SCOTUS, black female SCOTUS with Natasha Brown. You look at his administration, there are gays. He just appointed a transgender speaker or his whatever you call it, the public speaker for him. Now that's going to be transgender. He got other LGBT members on his administration. He has Muslims on his administration. So when folks suggest that the Democrats are the party of racism and the Republicans are the party of tolerance, I'm just simply telling you, even if that's 100% true, the optics don't match that. We're looking at all these diverse people and this group full of all of these white people and being told the white people are the ones that love you. It doesn't match what
Yeah,
we're seeing.
but the people that you're talking about, they didn't get picked based on merit. They were checking boxes. You got a gay guy in transportation. You got the transgendered health person. They're checking boxes. It's nothing. It doesn't have anything to do with merit.
You're going to tell me they're checking boxes, but Ben Carson, a brain surgeon, being over housing and urban development, didn't set off the same alarm?
Well, I think Ben Carson was interested in that because of how he grew up, and he's a smart guy, right? I
You
mean, that's what he
can't.
said. I'd take him at his word. Like, he was interested in being involved in housing and urban development because he grew up in a rough environment when he came up.
And that's not
I can
possible.
buy that. Sorry.
Okay,
Huh?
so you believe that Ben Carson wanted to do it deliberately, but on the liberal
That's what
side,
he.
okay, well,
That's what he said.
how do you know that doesn't apply on the liberal side?
I haven't heard anybody say it. I don't know what he means. Now look, I'll tell you. Here you go. Now you want to talk about Ketanji Brown though. I can tell you why. I'll tell you why. This is the same. This is similar to how Obama was chosen to be president, right? You have Ketanji Brown Jackson in there, right? She is radical. She is probably more radical than RBG, right? But because she's black, you can't hardly even push back against her, and she gets on there. So she
You,
serves a purpose.
Trump appoints 3 Supreme Court justices, and within a year they're rolling back Roe v. Wade. You're talking about a radical? You're talking about they don't already roll back legislation that's been in place for 50 years, and you want to talk about radicals?
You gotta look at my TikTok where I have RBG herself saying that there were issues with Roe v. Wade, that she didn't have the expectation that would go through, and that it didn't follow the legislative process.
I'm fine with what RGB said, and she's correct about that. They should have secured it, but the idea that Nataji is radical, and you're going to look at these other Supreme Court justices as normal, even though they're rolling back some legislation that's been around our entire lifetime, they're radical too. And hold on a second. In addition to rolling back Roe v. Wade, you got Mitch McConnell indicating this could turn into a complete abortion ban. They could actually.
Mitch McConnell is an idiot.
Well, but you're talking about radical. You're talking about radical.
He's a moron.
Okay.
I really think that Mitch McConnell did that to harm the Republican Party, because the way now, if you look at our Constitution, right, the way that our Constitution is written, the federal government should be weak. The power is with the states, and that is a Republican thing. That's a conservative. That's what we want to conserve, right? Strengthen the states, a weak federal government. They do way too much at a federal level, and conservatives don't like that. So for Mitch to come out and just walk all over that talking point, that value that conservatives hold, and for him to mess that all up, he's either a moron or he's doing it intentionally, right?
I can't speak for Mitch, but look, I want to go ahead and move the program
All
on,
right,
man. Wow.
all right, all right, man. I'll talk to you again. Yeah. All
I
right. Have a
really
great night.
enjoyed that one. I really enjoyed that one. Okay. You have a good
All
one.
right.
All right. We got a counterpoint, obviously. This is Randy Kane. We definitely another friend of the program. What would that say? Hang on a second, real quick, Randy. There, we weren't the ones protesting and vandalizing. You might want to check the tantrums. Go tell Nancy Pelosi that who is missing personal items from January 6th that you were not vandalizing. Go tell her that. I think they took a whole fucking podium out the building. Randy, what's up?
Uh, I didn't mean to hijack your life, but I was so offended by this guy. Like, you totally let him just say the black people weren't even, they had no merit, no credibility, no background. As if they, like Joe Biden went to Compton and just got some people, the black people, first black people he saw on the fucking corner. Like, these people weren't educated, had experience. Like, you just totally demeaned every black person, Joe, that you mentioned as if we were just gutter. I'm just disgusted.
Well, let me make it clear. Obviously, I clearly disagree with Jeff. Now, you're saying I should have disagreed with him from a different angle. That's fine. I do give folks, I do give folks their right to free speech. Clearly, I didn't agree with anything he was saying. I was letting him know that. But I do let the man speak. But go ahead.
I know, I was just saying, I was like so offended, like, wow, all the stuff he was saying. And then about the switch, it happened this. So you were right when you were talking about the Southern Dixiecrats. It's almost like the radical right side of the house, right? What do they call themselves? The Freedom Caucus on the right. It's like that part of the party that aren't really Republicans. They're just super radical. That's how I feel the Southern Dixiecrats were represented within the Democrat Party. I don't know necessarily that the Democrats changed. It was just the Southern Dixiecrats went to become Republicans. That's what happened. And I like that you challenged him on the whole notion of, well, why do the Republicans fly the Dixiecrat flag, the Democrat flag, right? Why do you guys support that? And so, what else were you talking about? All types of stuff. You guys were so all over the place. I don't know what
You came here on all cylinders. Well,
I was offended.
I get it. And that's why I let people speak their points. I want to hear both sides of the aisle. Sometimes it's going to be offending because we do disagree on things. But at the end of the day, I make it clear I let everybody speak. But when it comes to the political switch, there are going to be people who are just not going to believe it. It's just like you could go back to the 1950s and say that blacks are being mistreated. And there were people during that time. There was nothing you were going to say to get them to believe that was actually happening. They were adamant that slavery has ended 100 plus years ago. It's 1950 now. Nobody's being mistreated. Quit complaining. They were adamant about that. So sometimes you just have to realize everybody is not necessarily going to be able to be convinced. And I guess you kind of have to just move on from there.
Sure. And then I also wanted to talk about just I think there's a point too that I don't know if it was discussed because I literally had just come in and when he was degrading black people and saying that we had no merit other than being black. But anyway, I digress. So in the early 1900s, there there were lots of black Republicans actually in office, and then what happened? The Republican Party ran the black people out of the party, so
Let
that's
me.
what forced them to become Democrats because they
Okay,
were accepted in the
I have
Democrats.
not. I have not necessarily heard that angle. Well, let me ask you this. This is in regards to the gentleman, Real Trucker Jeff, that was just on here. He's in the comments and he asked the question, what is the difference between the KKK and Antifa? Now, I could give you a load of examples, but how would you answer that question? What is the difference between the KKK and Antifa?
I don't know. I feel like they're both gangs. They're gangs. They're nothing more than gangs. And the fact that he was calling Antifa Democrats is a joke. They don't even vote. They hate the whole government process. That's like Antifa is all against voting and they don't support Democrats. I just laugh at this argument that somehow Antifa is Democrat Party ran or part of the Democrat Party. It's odd to me. They're just a gang.
Well, I will say this in regards to the difference between Antifa and the KKK is their tolerance level. You can be black and be an Antifa. You
Sure,
can't
and
be
you could be
you cannot
woman.
be black and be in the KKK. You can't be gay and be in the KKK. You can't be hardly anything else other than a white male or a white woman and be in the KKK. So that's one of the biggest differences is the membership clause that the KKK has. They have strict membership requirements. But go ahead.
No, I just wanted to just touch on that little piece. Is it your understanding, or is it? I mean, how do you view Antifa? I never viewed them as part of politics.
I think that what does it stand for? Anti-fascist. In my opinion, they kind of just want anarchy. They don't
Yeah,
want
they're
yeah.
gang.
And I agree with your comment that they're not for necessarily the left or the right. They want to be autonomous, which is what they had in what was it called? Chaz. They had a little area
Oh
in
yeah, and
Portland.
was that
Yeah.
Seattle, Oregon?
Yeah, they
Yeah.
don't. Yeah, they don't want the same thing the liberals want. They want to pretty much control themselves. They want their own autonomous zone. So they're totally different than the liberals. Now, I get the political portion of it of trying to conflate them with the liberals because it makes liberals look bad. I get that. But in reality, no, Antifa doesn't want to be part of the Liberal Party. They want to be their own group.
And it's I almost shake the notion that it's like even if you think about black people in general, these people automatically call them Democrats just because they're black. The people in Chicago that are, in these gangs and shooting up everybody. Oh, those are Democrats. Those people don't even freaking vote. They don't even participate in the whole political sphere. How are they Democrats? Because they're black? This is
Yeah.
this is what I mean. There's like people don't understand that we're a country of what 330 million people and only 120 million participated in the last election. So that means there's a lot of people in this country who don't give a shit about their politics.
Yeah. And I've used that in an argument before as well when folks said the same thing. And I'm like, most of the felons and folks in the hood committing crimes, they're not showing up to vote at all. So you're right. They may have left leaning views, but on election day, they're not at the polls. They are not Democrats. They're not voting at all. You're right about that.
Yeah. Well, anyway, I don't know if you have another guest, but I wanted to
Yeah.
just jump in and say that little two piece. Good talking to you, my friend. I'll talk to you on the flip side.
You know you will. Come on back anytime. Oh, that was a lot of passion there. But we got somebody else coming on here. Let me let Jeff hates Trumpism. So we already know where that's going. Today, what about St. Louis, not just Chicago? Yeah, Chicago actually is not even in the top 10. Jeff hates Trumpism.
Hey,
Good
how's it going?
evening. What's up? I'm doing good.
Good. The the interesting comments in here really get me. First of all, the BLM, the woman stealing money from BLM. You realize where she got her millions of dollars? She had a book deal. She had a TV deal. She was a writer, and she won a lawsuit for her brother because the cops killed her. That's where she got her money.
So
She didn't embezzle it.
where's the night? So I have to ask. I got to follow that up because I have not heard that. Where is the $90 million that BLM has collected? Where has that went?
Basically, they have the only difference. The only reason they're talking 60 million, is because they didn't say where it came from. Not that they didn't say where it was spent. So they don't have to. You don't have to name who donates money to you.
You can't. No, let me tell you something. I understand your point.
And that's just one chapter.
Okay, let me say this. I cannot agree. You're raising money as a charity organization, stating that you're going to do things for African Americans. At the end of the day, most African Americans can't point to really anything that they've done. And whatever money they got, whether it's 90 million, 60 million, 30 million, you're going to tell me they don't have to explain what they did with money they were collecting under a charity type deal? I mean,
no.
should have
Not
to
what they did with it. They didn't explain where it came from. not what they did with it. They've put down in the books what they've done with the money. They didn't explain where it came from. That's what the problem was, because most of Black Lives Matter, most of the chapters have been very forthcoming about where they got their donations from. But this particular chapter didn't feel they needed to explain where they got their money. Not what they did with it, but where they got it. I
Why
have a
wouldn't they
nonprofit
explain
myself.
Why wouldn't they explain
Where they got it?
it? That sounds shady.
It could be somebody was a big time donor and didn't want their name to get out. It's
Or it could
possible.
be
I don't know what the reasoning is.
It could be from nefarious activity trying to launder money. You got to explain where the money came from. That looks shady as hell doing that.
But it does look shady but it's also a donation. Like, I have a nonprofit, and if somebody came to me and said, I'm going to donate to your nonprofit, but I just want it to be anonymous, I'm going to respect their wishes.
I'll just say this in regards to NGA Bro Coleman. You're saying, where did this guy get this information? This is new information. I have not heard this either, and I've been one that have been kind of hard on Black Lives Matter because as far as I'm concerned, they have not been transparent, and I'm not the only one that thinks that way. Amazon, the company Amazon, removed them from their platform as a charity organization because Amazon thought they were not being transparent enough. Whatever they're doing, they need to be more clear. They need to have more clarity on what they're doing. Coming back and saying, well, I don't have to explain this. It doesn't look right when you got a large amount of African Americans saying that. Where did the money go? Not whites, not people who are critical of Black Lives Matter. I'm talking about people who were actually walking down the street yelling Black Lives Matter. You got people like that saying, where the hell did the money go? So they have some explaining
and
to do.
That's a different story. Yeah, I agree. But it wasn't, she had money. She had a good job. She had many different avenues to get money. So she had money coming in, plus the lawsuit.
Well, I'll tell you, as long as things are going the way she's got to clear this. I agree
that it would look better. It would look better if they did come out and just put it out on the table.
Because that lawsuit stuff you're talking about, nobody's going to buy that with all of this other lack of clarity until they clear this up. Right. Them explanations you're giving, that's not going to go anywhere. They need to be a lot more transparent.
Well, and that's what the other branches, the other chapters told them. That's why they've broken off into so many different chapters. Is they didn't think they needed to be transparent about where the money came from, and the other chapters did.
An African American group raising tens of millions of dollars on racism. I mean, I'm just going to tell you, when you look at the racism, the racial history of this country, any African American that think they're going to do something like that and not have to be transparent, you're not going to get away with this. I mean, you're black.
I realize that is the case. But when you look at the shady shit Trump does and gets away with without explaining anything and just throwing lies out there, why is it we're so concerned about a black woman that's successful? You got white guys that are rich buying 4 houses all the time. No one says a thing. But a black woman buys 4 houses, suddenly it's a big deal. Got to be something shady. It's just ridiculous.
Well, I understand your point. There are plenty of white collar criminals out there. I get what you're saying, but I'm just simply saying she should have been prepared for this. The problem is not necessarily just her skin color, but also you got to realize you are a controversial organization that people do not like. It's like NAMBLA. You ever heard of the group NAMBLA, North American Man-Boy Love Association? It's essentially a bunch of it's a bunch of child predators. You're not going to raise money without getting extra scrutiny because people do not like you as a group. There's a lot of people who do not like Black Lives Matter, whether it's a legitimate group or not. Right. So the minute you start raising guilt,
I don't have white guilt to answer that. White guilt would be for people that were guilty of something. I may have benefited from white privilege. I may have benefited from the racism in this country, not because I wanted to, but because it was happening. I, however, do stand up in my rural town and sometimes just by myself with a Black Lives Matter sign, walking the streets getting hate. So not because I feel guilty, because I think everyone should be treated the same.
You went out.
That's why. There's no guilt involved.
Fair enough. Let me say this in regards to Gamecock 8's comment. Anytime a black person gets money, the magnifying glass comes out. Shit, they still mad about Obama. I do believe there's some validity in that. And that to me, what Black Lives Matter is doing without being transparent, it's akin to selling drugs on the street when you can clearly see a helicopter flying above with a spotlight. If you know the magnifying glass is there, I mean, seriously, if you know the magnifying glass is there, you need to cross every T and dot every I. And they clearly do not
But
appear to
and
be doing that.
then though we can look at the flip side. The magnifying glass, the spotlight was on the cops, and they got worse. They got worse. The whole world was looking at them, and they were scum. They got worse. It was ridiculous.
I can't argue with that. And you're right about the spotlight because everybody now has a complete movie studio on them in the form of their camera on their phones now. Yeah, it's amazing that you still see so many cops doing stuff that is like escalating issues and defending egos and demanding respect, which is not a violation of the law. And it's like, don't you realize that there are cameras everywhere now? Some of them do commit some acts, and I'm just like, is it that hard for you to go straight? You know, there's cameras on light poles and stuff. There's cameras everywhere. Like, so I do agree with that. It's really
kind of brings us
everywhere. Like, so I do agree with that. It's really
that kind of brings us back to. I think Antifa was created by World War I vets. It brings us back to Antifa. Antifa was created by World War I vets to fight against fascism, the German Nazis, and the Italians in World War II. So then Antifa, their goal is multi-level. It's to fight against otherism, which is any kind of bigotry, racism, anything like that. It's to fight against fascism itself, which is a police state. And that brings us back to the police. Trump is an authoritarianist. He gives authority to his followers to act like assholes. You'll notice since he came into power, domestic abuse has skyrocketed. People yelling at public figures has skyrocketed. People going onto planes and yelling at pilots skyrocketed. Because all of his followers saw him be an asshole and get put in power, so they got the authority to be assholes themselves and do it publicly. They all would have been bad anyway, but they would have done it quietly and kicked the dog when they got home.
I will say this. I don't know about some of the things you said, but I will say this. The FBI, regardless of how I feel about any of this, the FBI has stated that some of these areas you're mentioning did go up under Trump. I don't know. I don't have access to the information, but that was Trump's own FBI saying it. So It is what it is. But I'll let you go ahead and wrap it. If somebody else wants to get in, and they're going to be on the other side of you. So this is going to be interesting to see what happens. But I guess somebody who is going to oppose what you just said. But I'll give you the last word.
All right.
But
hey, it's been nice talking to you. And let me just say, most liberals are handsome, but you're next level, man. Well done.
Appreciate it. I get critique on the name all the time, and that's why the name is there. Okay, but hey, listen, if you don't think you handsome, who the hell else is? I look at myself and I get turned on, goddammit. The liberal boogeyman. Okay, this is going to be interesting. Pelosi on videos calling for punching Republicans in the face while they eat. Nancy Pelosi suggested punching Republicans. Hang on a second. Hold on a second, liberal boogeyman. Nancy Pelosi called for liberals to punch Republicans in the face while they're eating. I need to see a link. Liberal boogeyman, what's up?
Oh, not much. I was hearing you talking about the Black Lives Matter thing, and about them, buying mansions or whatever they were talking about. Yeah, see, here's the crazy thing about that. People don't understand that a lot of these nonprofit organizations and charities and stuff like that, when they get money, they have to pay their employees for working for them. So these people who went out and bought mansions, they already had money. They didn't use the money from Black Lives Matter to do this. Like the one who bought the mansion, she's like a multi-millionaire book man. Like she writes books. She's a novelist. Like she has her own money. I don't understand why so many people are sitting there scrutinizing Black Lives Matter when there's other non-charitable organizations out there like Goodwill, Salvation Army, and all these other white-owned charities that do the same exact things.
Let me respond to you by you, and I was going to say exactly what Biden pooped in his pants said, and that is they can't show what they did with the money. Like when you mentioned the white organizations like the Goodwill and all of that, they can clearly show what they're doing for poor people. The Black Lives Matter folks, yeah, they are having a hard time describing who the hell have you helped with the money you were collecting. I still don't know that. That I,
I think they put out something about that. I think they actually had to put out something about that. I don't know. I'm not
the
sure, but I
fact that
think
the
they
fact that
did.
you can't easily
Let me double check
recite it.
that.
Okay, right, exactly. And the fact that you're like, I think they did this or that, you should be able to easily recite that. They collected a lot of money. They had the summer of 2020, they were doing big because everybody was sympathizing with Black Lives Matter. It shouldn't be that hard where you got to really Google and look in the fine print. You should instantly be able to say, well, they created a school in New Jersey or they did this in Philadelphia. And we can't. We don't know. They have not been clear what they've done with the money. And that is a major problem. And like one of the, I believe it
I
was
believe.
Danny said in the comments, if you got the
Uh,
spotlight on you,
yeah,
you got to be more clear with that. But go ahead.
yeah, I believe they legit actually take that money and put it towards lobbying. Is what I'm starting to believe. Because I'm sure it also goes into a different type of fund too, if I remember correctly. Don't they collect it through? Let me double check that because I have to double check that. I think it does go into
Well, and
lobbying as
that's
well.
but
Because
see,
I'm very sure they also politics
that's the
game.
and that's the problem, though. It shouldn't be this difficult to know. You shouldn't have to do all this Googling and, well, let me check that. It should be clear. And it's not, even based on your answers, whereas you're defending them, and I don't have a problem with you defending them if you can present the evidence, but even your defensive answers are like, well, maybe this and that. It shouldn't be that foggy. It just happened. It should be a lot clearer than that. Black Lives Matter
Yeah,
pocketed
I
that
don't
money.
follow them
No,
like
that came
that,
from
so I
you
gotta
should I
double
don't
check. I have to
follow them
definitely go
either.
to their site and look up and see what they. Yeah, I gotta go see what they saying, see what they doing with it. Because like, you can't speak on off the top of my head, but I can definitely go look it up
I
and
don't
find out about it.
I'm fine about that. Just like I would say, I don't follow hockey, but I know who Wayne Gretzky is. You don't have to follow basketball to know who Michael Jordan is. I don't follow the Goodwill, but I can tell you what they've done. You shouldn't have to necessarily follow them. It should be clearer than this as to what they have done, and it's not. And that's even coming from two African Americans. We don't know what the hell they've done. It shouldn't be this foggy. We know about the mentions, but we don't know about what they've done. You know about them selling books, but you don't know about what they've done. It shouldn't be that foggy. That's a problem.
No, I know they've done some things like they had to pay. They did pay some lawyer costs. They did pay some court costs. They did pay off some lawyers. They did take some of the money to the different families that have been affected by like by the violence that has to deal with police. There's certain donations I know they've made for like different college funds and things like that. But I don't know exactly where every little cent they've spent has gone. Like they're
I
all over the
honestly,
place. They're not in like one legit thing. They're all over the place with what they do.
I can name more things that Oprah Winfrey has done for black people than them. And Oprah Winfrey probably has not spent as much on blacks as they
Oprah has
have.
been around longer.
Well, the thing about it is she has been more public, more transparent in what she's doing. You're gonna tell me Black Lives Matter couldn't get a 30-minute segment on BET or something to show them opening up a school in the hood somewhere or building a basketball court or something? I mean, there's nothing out there. They have not a lot to look for. It shouldn't
To
be
be
that
fair,
difficult. Huh?
to be fair, to be fair about the Oprah thing, it wasn't known that anything that Oprah gave you was taxed heavily, and we didn't know that for the longest time. That like if she was giving away stuff, it got taxed heavily. So we didn't know
That
that
ain't
about the
her
Price is
fault
Right
though.
either. We didn't know all these kind of things.
Okay, that's fine, but that's not her fault. If I give you a car and the IRS comes after you for give you a car and the IRS comes after you for the car, I gave you a car. I can't control the IRS. That ain't my fault. I mean, that's between you and the IRS. I gave you a car. If the IRS wants to hate on it, I can't stop them from hating. But you drove out of here with a car. So I can't. I agree with you that they got taxed, but that's something that's between the person who received the gift and the IRS. At the end of the day, Oprah still gave them that gift. She's not responsible for what the IRS is sweating on somebody like that. That's a government issue. If we posted
But
Black
here's the
Lives
thing, though. She did know that she was giving out those gifts and that people were taxing the heck out of them for that. And some people were going into the red because of those taxes. She knew that. So
well,
she should have stopped giving out them kind of gifts.
Well, that can't remember the guy. I cannot think of his name. He would say "Good morning," and he would give. They were giving houses away on ABC. They would make houses for poor people, and he'd come out there with a megaphone, "Move that bus," and they'd have a house behind. Those houses were getting taxed heavily too. Anytime you can go on the Price is Right, when you go to Price is Right and win gifts, they're taxed heavily. That is just the way our system is set up. That's not Oprah's fault. That's not any game show's fault. If people give you free shit, the IRS starts hating on you. You win the lottery, the IRS is going to hate on you. That's not something that's unique to what Oprah was doing.
It's not. But the difference is that she knows that people were getting taxed heavily, and she didn't help those people that she caused them to go through that.
Then just listen.
She's like, well, I gave you a car. I mean, like, yeah, you did give me a car, but you also gave me a buttload of debt.
No, come on now. You looking to gift horse in the mouth. If I give you a $40,000 car, and the government is going to tax you $15,000 for the $40,000 car, then just sell the $40,000 car, give the government 15, and walk away with 25,000, and shut the fuck up. I don't get that. You're getting free shit. You're complaining. I mean, just sell the car if you can't pay the taxes and keep and pocket the $25,000 in cash or whatever. And to me, that's just not something you can't complain about. There's somebody handing you a car and you bitching about, well, I'm getting taxed on it. Sell the brand new car, like I said, pay the taxes and use the remaining money to buy yourself a lesser car. You still have a car. You're still getting a free car.
So whenever you get a car brand new off the lot, if it's $40K, the moment you drive it off the lot, it value depreciates immensely. They'll buy that car back for $20,000. So if you go 15 in debt, you're gonna have $5,000 in your pocket after you paid off, and
It's
you're not gonna get a car with that. Like
$5,000.
we
It's
got to be realistic about
$5,000.
this.
Okay, it's $5,000 you didn't have. She gave you $5,000 then. Buy a used car for
Not even some
$5,000.
groceries. That'll last a little while. But
I
even if
mean,
you
look.
already have another car, I mean, that's still a load of problems though. Like you might as well just keep the damn car. I don't want the problem.
Well, I'm just simply saying, if somebody gives you a free car, there is plenty of room, even with the depreciation you're talking about. There is plenty of room to sell that car, pay the taxes off on that car, and still buy another car. Unless somebody giving you like a free Yugo or something like that. Even a mid-sized car, if it's completely brand new, you're going to be able to sell that car for at least 70 to 80% of what it costs brand new. You haven't put that many miles on it. Sell that car, pay the taxes off, and use the
Maybe.
remaining amount to buy it. What kind of no? You should be able to do that for certain. You should be. I just can't see that. If you go out and get a Chevy, mid-size Chevy that's worth $30,000, and they take it off the truck and give it to you, and you only put a couple 100,000 miles on it. It's not like that $30,000 car is also all of a sudden going to go for $20,000. You can get more than that for it. So let's say you sell it for
Wait, you said a
25.
couple 100,000 miles?
No, a couple hundred. Sell it right away. You can't afford the taxes. Sell it right away. You know, the only miles should be on it is from your house and
Yeah,
from
you put
your
a couple
house to the
hundred.
seller.
You put a couple 100 miles on it. It's still gonna depreciate. They're not gonna take 70%, 80% back on it because already sticker price is already trying to shit you out the car.
Okay.
They
I don't
just
know.
want to make a profit. Now
I
you
don't
got like
know
about
what.
maybe 30 days with some dealerships to take it back and you'll get a full refund.
Yeah, and I don't know where you're buying and selling cars from, but that's not been my example. I do agree that when you drive a car, it depreciates, but it doesn't depreciate at the rate you're suggesting. If you got a $30,000 car and you drive you
Oh
only put
yes, it's horrible.
yeah, well, we don't deal with that like that. Okay, Because if you're driving a $30,000 car or $40,000 car and you only drive 200 miles, it's not going to drop $10,000 based on that. It's just not going to drop like that. You're suggesting that it drops a ridiculous amount, and I
It
just
does
don't
drop
see it.
ridiculous amounts.
Okay, all right. Well, look, fair enough.
I look
We'll
up
just
sometime.
say that again.
I definitely do need to figure out what the heck BLM been doing with that money. I definitely need to look that up while I got time to do that, because
All
like
right.
that makes they should have already been transparent with what they've been doing.
Okay, fair enough. All right, well, listen, man, I want to go ahead and move the program on. If you find that out, drop that in the comments, and I certainly will point it out.
All
Okay,
right.
I don't know if he dropped that or not, but looking in the comments, check with the IRS buying mansions. Somebody said something about okay, this is UBI 2060. A $30,000 car will depreciate to 20K. So you're suggesting, like the caller did, UBI, that if you buy a car for $30,000 today and you drive 200 miles, let's say you drive 200 miles overnight, you're suggesting that that car is now only worth $20,000 by tomorrow morning. 10,000, a third of its value is gone because you drove 200 miles on it. You really believe that? There's no way I'm gonna believe that. And right above you, some guy is blabbing about his victimless tax. Okay. Let me see here. I literally bought a car 8 months ago, and its value is the same. Well, user 777, I understand it, but I didn't bring that up because a lot of that's happening because of the Biden economy and inflation. Cars are going for a lot more right now than they normally do. So I do agree that under normal circumstances, like say under Trump administration, cars would depreciate some, but not 30% from 200 fucking miles. I mean, not because let me put it this way. With the caller suggesting that you might not be able to pay the taxes because your car would depreciate. If your car depreciated that much, you could also write the depreciation off on your taxes to match it. I mean, because that is a huge amount of depreciation he's claiming. A huge amount. Or better yet, as Trump would say, a huge amount. That's not true. People never had a new car. That's what I'm thinking. I had never heard of that kind of depreciation, Don. Yeah, it's not considered brand new anymore. Craig Smith, I agree it's not considered brand new. But 30%? I mean, seriously, you go out and buy a $40,000 car and the next day with only 200 miles on it, it's going to depreciate about $10,000 or more? No, I don't believe that. Put it this way. Let's say you're going out. You want to buy a new car. Your budget is $30,000. You're looking to buy a brand new car. You're telling your wife or your husband, I want plastic still on the seats. I want to smell that new car smell. You're looking to buy a brand new car yourself. You want 0 miles on it. While you're in there, the dealer comes up to you and tells you, I got a car just like the one you're looking at, but it's got 200 miles on it. It's only got 200 miles on it. I'll sell you this car for $4,000 less. You wouldn't pay that. You wouldn't pay that for that. You wouldn't take that $4,000 discount. If they said they'd sell it to you for $3,000, $2,000 less. It's only 200 fucking miles. That's not even close to an oil change. That's nothing. If the dealer can tell you we certified this car, certified new, and it's only got 200 miles on it, you're going to tell me you would want $10,000 taken off of that car. And they could not find somebody else that would pay more than that? You really believe that? Let me see. Used cars are in high demand. Yeah, all cars are in high demand. Car dealerships around me want to make $2,500 or $4,000 on every used car. Well, they want to make money on new cars too. People are going to start using their bikes again. Check how IRS regulates charities for answer the Black Lives Matter question. Ben Hur. I'll just say this. It really doesn't matter what we get from the IRS. Black Lives Matter themselves should have better answers for what they've done with the money. That's my take on that. They should be far more transparent and forthcoming with their answers. Not telling me, well, I made money off of books, or what did you do with the money you received? They should be far more forthcoming with that. I mean, they knew when they were collecting the money, there were haters all around. You would have to know that the haters are going to hold you accountable for this money you're raising, because that's the vast majority of the people complaining about where Black Lives Matter money went. They didn't donate any money to them at all. So you know the haters are coming out. You need to have answers for the haters. And right now they don't have good answers. That lady scammed everyone on Black Lives Matter. We saw the Black Panther Party being transparent. We saw what happened to them. The Black Panthers, yeah, obviously they were victims of all kinds of race. The Black Panthers, yeah, obviously they were victims of all kinds of racial issues. But I will say that we're in a different era, and there are more protections from that. You got to be transparent. That's all I'm gonna say. You can't make excuses for why you can't be transparent. Remember, profit is not a dirty word. Okay. Trump defunded the IRS. He sure talked about doing it. The appreciation of vehicles today are crazy good. Like I said, 10,000 bucks for 200 miles. I don't believe that though. There's no way I'm gonna believe that. My car was $5,068 after tax, tag, and title. That must not be a new car, though, right? You'll pay sticker price today, no wiggle room. That is true, Crazy Mike. I just purchased a used vehicle, and it was, I definitely paid more than normal. So, yeah, it happens. Corporations are passing the Black Lives Matter donations on to the consumers. Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, if they're donating money, I wouldn't be surprised if they're doing it. Corporations are you know how corporations work. They pass everything on to consumers. Even if there's nothing to pass on, they'll just come up with a reason to increase prices. It happens. If we posted our statements, then white boogeymen come out and get us. I can't control that. I know we're trading her Camry for Colorado. Okay. All right, folks. Well, look, I'm gonna go ahead and wrap it up. We got our points across tonight. Definitely some interesting shit, but I do believe at the end of the day, we are headed towards a complete abortion ban. That looks pretty apparent. Certainly when you look at Mitch McConnell, and of course, for those who came to the program towards the end, I will read you the quote again before we go in regards to why we're heading towards a complete abortion ban. This is Mitch McConnell. This is an actual quote. Mitch McConnell, the highest ranking Republican senator in all of Washington. If the leaked opinion became the final opinion, legislative bodies, not only at the state level, but at the federal level, certainly could legislate in that area. And he was asked if a national abortion ban is worthy of debate, and his response was, it could happen. And if this were the final decision, that was the point, that it should be resolved one way or another in the legislative process. So yeah, it's possible. So that came from the highest ranking Republican politician. Really, he's the highest ranking, currently he is the highest ranking Republican politician in Washington. And he's suggesting that, yeah, this could happen. So whether you believe we're having a complete, and Medic 6 Augustine said right on the right is pissed the fuck off that Mitch McConnell has literally said the quiet part out loud, because he's removed the notion that this is not an abortion ban. It's just giving the rights back to the states. That was the claim. We had a live here last night, and that's what everybody said. It's not a complete abortion ban. It's simply returning abortion rights back to the states where they should be. And then boom, the highest Republican in Washington comes out and says this shit, dispelling every Republican that tried to defend what the Supreme Court is about to do. It made it clear, yeah, it's very possible that we're coming after all of your abortion rights. So yeah, the Republicans now are obviously very upset with Mitch McConnell because, yeah, he pretty much backed up all of the fears coming from the left and just made the fucking midterms that much harder for the right. Because now you can no longer say that what the left is doing is fear-mongering. You got your own highest-ranking members stating that what they're claiming actually could happen. You guys have a good night, and we will do this tomorrow, 7 p.m. Central Time, Monday through Friday. It's your boy Tim, the handsome lover.